And wait, we're live.
Welcome to Valorant. I forgot the name of the show. Plat Chat VALORANT. Is that what we're doing?
Welcome to Valorant.
Welcome to Valorant. This is the home of Valorant.
Brimstone.
Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 agents in Valorant.
Dude, I've actually, it's been a long time since we've done an episode. I forgot that we were doing this show. We couldn't do one last week. I mean, since we've last done an episode, there was an attempted coup in South Korea. Like the Syrian regime has fallen. It feels like we haven't done one in decades.
We definitely
We're
just
back
got
here.
demonetized, by the way. But
No,
that's okay,
no,
keep
don't
going.
worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. Anyway, we've got 2 sponsors for this episode, Kurt. So don't worry about the money coming in.
Yeah, you're right. We're rich.
The money's going to be absolutely
The
fine.
sponsors love world politics, by the way. It's their favorite thing.
They do. This episode is sponsored by Factor and Manscaped, but we'll talk about those a bit later on. The first thing that we've got is an interview with Leo Faria. So we're going to have to kick somebody off to bring him in. But last time we kicked off Mimi, so I don't want to kick off Mimi.
Okay.
Who are we
Me and
kicking?
TMB just dueling.
Well, I don't really like TMV. Can we just get rid of him?
What? No, you sure.
Hello there, welcome Leo. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me. I feel bad for TV. Can we bring him back?
No.
No.
He's gone.
No, he's gone. He's just going to sit there in the void in purgatory for a while.
All right.
How's the off-season treating you?
Oh man, it's been great, dude. I think it's been busy. You know, a bunch of cool tournaments. I had a chance to travel to some of them. Started with Ascension in Monterrey. Went down to Mexico for that, and then yeah, I mean, just a bunch of. We were just chatting before going live here. I always expect, that after champs things are gonna calm down a little bit, but I feel like this year's in particular has been quite busy. So, yeah, everything's going well.
I wanted to open up just by kind of going through the letter. So you posted this like letter that you've been doing it every year, or have you just been doing it recently? I feel like
It's the second year, but
right, okay,
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I've got the recency bias of every Valorant fan, so I can't remember anything more than a year and a bit ago. So you were kind of going through some of the stuff here. One of the big announcements was that they got the kind of viewership total, the peak viewership for Champions, which we knew was going to be enormous because it was, the viewership in China has been absolutely huge. And the announcement was that Champions Soul broke 9.1 million peak viewers, with EDG obviously winning at the end there. So I wanted to ask you, what's it like? You've already said this, that this will probably last for a while as like a high watermark. And so a lot of your talk recently has been about like growth. The growth of the esport has been enormous. So does that change things? Does it give you like a high bar to be aiming for? Do you still think that there's room to continue developing within the Chinese or the other viewership? Does this change something, having such a large mark that you think is unlikely to be hit again in the near future?
Yeah, look, when we look at these events, there are things that are under our control and things that are not under our control, right? So things that are under our control is things like the location and the time zone and the start time and the quality of the show. Things that are not under our control are which teams are going to make it to finals, and so I think what was beautiful about Seoul, and probably the biggest theme behind this viewership numbers that off in China, and it was just a perfect storm, being all the way to grand finals, and grand finals going to 5 maps, and Con doing so well. So like all of those things combined made the event be this big and this successful. So we're always pushing the bar, right? Of course, I would love to have more viewership and more fans and more engagement in future years, but not beating this number doesn't mean the events aren't successful. So, we try to keep pushing the envelope and innovating and doing the best that we can. But again, a lot of it is just outside of our control. In fact, if you wanted to optimize for viewership only every year, we would just host all of our events in EMEA. That's where we get the best of both worlds, Like we can serve everyone around the world in the best possible way. When you go to North America or Asia, it's a bit of a sharp trade-off. You're kind of really catering to one audience while messing up, another big chunk.
You got something, Mimi?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
sorry.
give you-
I
give you
think as well
opportunity.
for the growth in China, it's obviously been huge. And when we look at the other titles for Valorant, especially League, it is really driven by stuff in China. Outside of the global events, which you're obviously seeing the success there, that just kind of comes down to viewership, things like that, time zones like you're talking about. How do you plan to actually grow the sport itself in China outside of those global events? Because we can't always rely on EDG going on a miracle run to pull in new fans. I know, for instance, like in the LPL, it's a pretty big thing. They like travel around China. They have this whole thing going where they're doing like road shows constantly, things to that effect. Is that kind of a future vision you have for VCT China, where it's something similar to the LPL? Or what are the kind of future goals to continue to grow the sport there?
Yeah, look, I think in a lot of ways we are already doing those things. We did a roadshow in Shanghai last year for Roadshow 2 playoffs. We still have plans to do that in 2025. It's going to be a big year of a lot of investment in VCT CN. But I think probably the biggest opportunity for growth in that region is just having better competition. In a lot of ways, they're still very reliant on 2 teams in a few stars, and I think for that entire league to grow, we need to see more, more competition. I think the thing that is beautiful about Val is the fact that our competitions aren't predictable, and the fact that anyone can win, and that crew can go on a run, and like those things make it interesting to watch. And yeah, China is not there yet, so. Yeah, looking forward to 25 for sure.
Leo, same as Kurt, doesn't believe in wolves. Crazy, actually. They're gonna prove you all
TMV
wrong.
is
Wolves win.
fuming.
So you talked a lot about the China stuff. I guess because it's got so popular now, do you expect like the sales for digital goods to just like rocket, which kind of explains because you took away incentives for co-streamers and like orgs that have co-streamers, right? Is that purely just because the sales numbers are hitting like way higher than you kind of thought, or like
That's a good
kind of
question. I don't
expecting it
think
to go up?
Yeah, I don't think we ever talked about the incentives piece other than commenting on an article or something like that. Look, the goal for Val and the VCT since the beginning has been to align the incentives with teams, right? To make sure everyone is marching in the same direction and they have the incentives to do the right things and help us grow the sport and grow the community. And those incentives were very much designed to put teams in a certain direction, right? And they were very prescriptive in a way. We asked them to do a bunch of stuff. And 2 things happened after 2 years of us running those incentives. The one thing we learned is that not all of those executions were really moving the needle. I want to say most teams were very well intended and they were trying their best, but there were a lot of just checking boxes. The other thing we noticed, and we heard from teams as a feedback, is that not all of those incentives were actually worth pursuing. It was like spend $1 to make $1. I think the co-streaming piece is a good example where what we heard from them is that what we created was a bidding war for teams to go to the top co-streamers and try to sign them to reach their viewership goals and therefore have access to money. But again, they had to spend more than they were making from the incentives to do those things. So in a lot of ways, our goals haven't changed. We're just reorganizing how we pay out money. So yes, we took away the incentive program, but we increased the minimum guarantee on digital goods. Digital goods are way overperforming everyone's expectations, including ours, which means more money is going from Riot to teams than last year. We expect even more money to go out to teams in 2025. So, like we're always going to be looking at what's working, what's not, and trying to adjust. But just to answer your question, yes, these are performing incredibly well. And it's just what's in a good position because, it can really be a win-win situation, like everyone's winning together.
Cool.
Yeah, it is interesting, the like digital goods kind of side of things. I swear to God, I just heard TMV there. I can still hear his spirit.
I just heard
You can't kill me. You can't cancel me. It's not the first time you'll try Sideshow to cancel the voice of the people, but I'm still here.
The voice of the people.
The voice of the people. Speaking
That's
of
what he calls
digital
himself.
goods,
It's a big
Crazy.
claim.
I had a question for you, Leo, about
Yes,
those
sir.
digital goods.
Please.
So it's been I don't know if it's been announced, but it's been rumored that the next batch of digital goods will also be a classic skin again. Is there any, thought or possibility that there will be other guns, other gun types or knives, maybe even, that will be in future bundles, or are we going to stick with, the classic, kind of way forward?
Classic.
Yeah, I mean, you deserve to be sent away again just for that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I like that question. So look, I think because those team capsules worked really well, a lot of people expected us to do more, and people were clamoring for, can I get a Vandal or a Phantom? And the thing is, to do 48 of anything is just really, really hard. So we probably still want to continue to reserve the biggest weapons to things like the Champs Collection. The good thing about the capsule of the Classic that we like a lot is the fact that it is present in every round, right? And it gets more airtime than other guns. We try to look at it as like a team jersey, right? And at the end of at the start of every every season, you can get the new jersey if you want, as a way to support the team. There are some surprises coming, and I'm not going to spoil them because they're coming early 25. In ways, we're evolving the capsule a little bit to make it feel like current and to make it feel relevant and not just a reheat of the same thing. And I hope people like it because I think they look pretty cool. But yeah, but look, for now, classics are working. We're also expanding the offering, right? So we're not just going to run it back with the classic and the Champs Collection. We're introducing a new season capsule, which is going to be something like we did with Lock-In in 2023, which is a knife, which is also looking super fire with variants per league. And the learning there is, the goal with these capsules is two things, right? One is to have team brands in game and let people express their fandom and show support to the team. And the other one is just provide financial support. And the capsules did really well in both fronts, but the challenge was the disparity between the top selling and the bottom selling capsules were larger than we expected. And offering like the knives, the seasonal capsule, makes it easier for us to distribute more of the revenue equally across all teams, while still giving them the opportunity to, if you perform really well, you still have the capsule to differentiate yourself. But the gap was a little larger than we.
Yeah, I did want to ask
well,
about that.
actually, Sideshow, I actually have a lot of questions.
Kurt,
and
get him gone.
Not
Kurt,
much time.
Please take him out of there. Thank you. Right, I've got a follow up. We can't allow him just to dominate everything. Mimi, welcome back. I can't believe we kicked you off twice.
It's sad.
My follow-up question was, you said that there was a large gap between the top and the bottom. Now, is this because, in your view, that the top teams are just so overwhelmingly popular? We saw EDG's... EDG did some kind of drive. I can't remember the details of it, but they sold like an absurd amount in a tiny frame of time when they first announced theirs. We know that Sentinels have just been going on the crazy marketing campaign with Zelsys, etc. all year long. So I can understand why these kind of organizations would get massive amounts of engagement with it. Is that what's driving the inequality, or is it genuinely that some of the teams don't have very much engagement at the bottom compared to what you were expecting?
That's a great question. Look, there are a few things here. One is, in sports in general, there is a bit of a winner-takes-all dynamic, right? If you're a fan in Brazil and you have limited disposable income, you're probably not going to get all 3 Brazilian team capsules. You're going to choose one. So the bigger team tends to just get more of the sales, right? The other thing that's probably the biggest learning this year is all the team marketing and activation helped really create great momentum and a lot of conversation in the community. But the thing that actually drove sales is lifting trophies, is winning championships. So it was very clear in the data, when teams won ILs, when they won global events, we saw a pretty significant uptick in sales. Here's a fun fact for you on EDG. In the 12 hours following EDG winning the World Championship, they sold the same amount of capsules that they did in the first 4 months since the capsule was released.
Damn.
That's crazy, because they're a super
hours.
popular team as well.
I mean, they
That's
must have
exactly
already
right.
had like so many sold.
That's
That's
exactly right.
insane.
So, do the teams get this kind of analytical information? Like, from your point of view, do you think that translates or should translate into teams thinking, well, we actually need to win trophies? Like, the evidence is right here. If we put together a good team, we're going to actually get financially rewarded for it.
We do our best to share data with teams. I wish we could be doing a lot more. Every time I'm in meetings with team owners, I'm embarrassed because they're always asking for more, and we cannot always give them what they want. Like, I think everyone's dream, ours and theirs, is that we could a live dashboard where they could see that.
We're
Yeah,
losing you. Sorry, we're just losing you a little bit there, Leo. Would you be able to recap just that sentence? You were talking about a live dashboard. Like,
of course.
in an ideal world, you were saying that we'd be able to get some kind of live dashboard to see things.
Exactly. But we're not there yet. Things are unfortunately still painfully manual as far as how we get that data out to teams. So we don't provide as much as we want, but like that conversation happened. It was very clear. And that's part of how we reorganize and realign the incentives for next year. We told them, hey, we want you to forget about all the things and focus on 2 things. Fielding a competitive roster, doing your best to win, and doing your best to build fandom, to have fans. And I think that really puts us in the right track. And look, and the teams that did well this year had these 2 things. And by the way, we think one thing leads to the other, right? Winning championships attracts fans to your brand. It just makes the whole thing work. And the top teams. By the way, I don't think we ever put out an updated. I don't think we ever shared a global ranking in any way. So if y'all want, we could. I could give you a bit of.
Absolutely,
Please.
That'd be sick.
You know what? Maybe you try to guess. Number 1. I think that one's
EDG.
obvious.
EDG.
EDG. Number 2. This is
Sentinels?
global.
Sentinels or Paper X?
Yeah, Paper X is what I was thinking.
Paper X number 2.
Okay.
That's right. Number 3 globally.
Sentinels.
Any guesses? Sentinels number 4.
Really? Loud?
Oh.
Not loud. It's another America's team.
Another America's team, but they sold more than Sen did.
Wait, really?
Wow, I'm surprised by that.
Crew?
Not crew.
Crew.
Lev.
Leviatan.
Ah.
Wait, the Leviatan bundle though was bopping.
it's good.
I
It
actually
looked
loved
really
that bundle.
good. They had Ospas. I bet they picked up a lot of the Brazilian fans too.
That's right. Super
They
fire.
had
And
us
again,
once.
did very well at champs, right? Which helps. And we saw the uptick in sales in those moments. Like, you make playoffs, you make a good run, and sales. Again, people just like to be part of the momentum. Like, hey, this team is doing well. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy there. It's a very. And then
We're just
five.
getting TMV is just in the ether somewhere. in the shadows, interrupting us. So, I mean, are you willing to talk about some of the teams that didn't do as well?
Let me just give you 2 more, if that's okay.
Sure.
So we have, and then we have number 5 G2.
Okay.
Then we
That's.
have,
I'm surprised they did that well.
yeah. Then we have Fnatic.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I'll stop there.
are they balanced with are some regions much more gathering much more than others? It doesn't seem like the top list was particularly weighted towards one region or another, but are you noticing certain regions gathering a lot more of these digital goods sales than others?
No, there is a good balance overall. I think there's probably a little bit more. I mean, I just shared top 5, and there's more Americas. There's probably a little bit more Americas. I think if you discount EDG, then the EDG effect, because EDG is very, the gap between EDG and the second CN team, China team, is very significant. But overall, good balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can you tell me where Team Liquid is? Because I'm about to potentially start looking at new contracts with them. So if I can have a little bit of wiggle room and be like, well, you guys are only like 20th, maybe I could boost it up a little bit.
So actually, we made a very conscious decision of just sharing the, like we shared before, like top 3, top 5.
Okay.
Because we don't want to discourage any team, right? We don't want to give fans or anyone, with, the opportunity to meme or point to a team and say that things aren't working. So
privately, you'll tell me. Got it.
Makes sense. I want to ask, it seems like you're talking about, a lot of the incentives are built around doing well at championships, especially for teams. Getting to champions is huge because you're getting the split of the bundle money there. How well do you think the system financially speaking, is weighted in incentivizing teams to like do well and make it to these big events, and that being like the best way to make additional money. How well do you think it's balanced between that and kind of being a rich get richer thing, right? Of like the teams with the biggest fans have the most money for the best players, so they're going to have the most likely chance of going on a run at champions, which gets them the most money. Do you think it's properly balanced right now? And do you think there's kind of enough money going around to give room for those teams right now that are struggling to have that upward mobility?
I love that question because look, that's something we think about a lot. It's like how do we design the economy of the sport, because that dictates a lot of things, right? If you have more resources, you can get better players and things can easily get out of control. So the one thing we want to avoid very much is to have a lopsided league or a lopsided sport where a handful of teams or a handful of regions completely dominate the sport. We have something really special going right now. I want to protect that. So what we try to do, in fact, is make sure every team has, we provide everyone with a healthy baseline that is equal. And, if you're the team owner, manager, and you make good choices, you can thrive as a team and you can have good infrastructure, but then give the best teams the unlimited upside, because we want people incentivized to go do well and to have fans and to win championship, right? The moment you start limiting the upside or spreading too much of the money, what happens is they're just not incentivized to go do well, And this, not to get too philosophical, but it's a debate that's very much about allocation of resources, capitalism versus, you know what I mean? Like it's finding that balance is tricky. So we don't want to socialize much of the revenue to the point that people are like, it doesn't matter what I do, I'll get the same amount of money. But at the same time, just give everyone a healthy baseline to do well. And I feel like we're in a good spot right now.
That sounds cool. Oh no, not again.
So there goes
he's
Sligging.
back.
Good man down. You can't keep me down.
A good man?
I can see you going red, Sideshow, because Leo's talking about allocation of resources, and I know that your Tory brain is overheating and going crazy, going socialism, socialism, socialism.
Crazy.
And you're having to resist that urge. I know. I obviously don't have a lot of time here, so I'm just gonna quickly ask a couple questions. One is about the schedule. Is the schedule, obviously it's changed quite a lot, there's more gaps in between, all of that, all the things you've done. Can we expect that the schedule going forward in 2025 will be the schedule, something very similar, 26, 27, right? Where we've got 8-team masters into 12-team, into 16-team, with league play in between, but with more gaps. Is that kind of going to be the overall future, at least in the medium term-ish? And speaking of that, the schedule was kind of one of the, I think, main things that people held on to as something that could be realistically fixed by you, that you could actually do. Like, obviously, you can't just magically wave a wand and fix all of Tier 2 and give everyone money, but you could fix the schedule. So I'm wondering what is on your list now of things that you think can realistically be done in the next couple years that will, take this to the next level. Kurt, throw me into the ether. I'm gone.
Wow, he's just offering himself as sacrifice now. I don't like it. Yeah. So look, I feel like this is probably the final form of the shape of the season for now. The thing I say all the time is that we'll never be done. Like there's no such thing. Like we have to always keep looking at what's working, what's not, hearing people's feedback and evolving. The moment we stop evolving is the moment we start to dwell into irrelevance, right? Like you have to keep up with teams and fans' needs. So, but for now, what is very nice about the calendar next year is not only that we have a longer season that just makes everything work better. There's more time for pros to rest in between, for fans to reset. Actually had a lot of challenges this year, and with the calendar, it just felt, I think, to everyone, it was like there's no time to breathe. For us working on the show, that see me.
Yes.
Right? There's no time to pause, no time to breathe. And we saw like players having visa issues going back to ILs. We saw, people on our own team saying, I'm going to have to sit this event out, or it was just rough. So having more time is beautiful. But probably the best thing with the new calendar is that we've been doing a very intentional effort of aligning esports competitions with the game itself. and the cadence of episodes and acts, and when new content is launched, and when we have map rotations. And in 2025 is the first year where we have everything very intentionally and meticulously planned, and we think it's gonna be and it's gonna feel a lot better. Having more space also gives us opportunity to just try more things, right? For a few years now, people have been asking for, we're like, hey, can we have more third-party competition? Can we see these teams playing in a different setting that isn't the VCT? And now we have, going to next year, some of those breaks are like 25 days long. We could probably run a week-long off-season events if you wanted. Or if a team doesn't make it to a global event, they don't have to sit idle for a month and a half. They have something to play at. So we just think it's going to give us a lot more to work with, and hopefully it's going to feel, the pace is going to feel a lot better.
Yeah, I think it's nice as well because you're kind of giving everyone dates early, and that like never happens. To actually be able to plan in esports is like brand new thing. I feel like, so that's pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm very glad.
I was gonna ask you about maps a little bit because you touched on maps then. So you said you're gonna like align it more with ranked, and I think there's a video that said that as well. Can you kind of talk to me about how that's gonna happen? Are we gonna, because before teams had like a new map, it would be like 4 weeks before they could prep it, so you could kind of see if there's stuff you need to change, right? And then teams could play it. Is that still going to be a thing? And like everyone can play the game, play a new map for like 4 weeks, and then it comes into ranked and pro play at the same time?
So as a rule of thumb, we want new content to be out for at a minimum of 2 weeks before it goes live. I think the more philosophical choice there is we always want fans to be watching the same thing that they're playing, right? Because one of the biggest roles of esports for Riot and for the game is to, give you that inspiration to play. You watch something and like, let me go try that in my own games in ranked. So if you're playing a different, I'm sorry?
Never works for me. I get the inspiration, but it doesn't actually translate into anything.
No, I feel you. But if you're watching one thing and then you're playing a different version of the game, we just lose that connection. So what we are going to do going to next year is we're going to have, by the way, we're also announcing to teams in advance what the map rotation is, not for the entire year, but they're also getting more information in advance so they can prepare for it. And look, like as you mentioned, of us just sharing dates and things in advance, I don't know why we never did it, to be honest. Like, it's just like one of those things, because we have the information. We're already talking about the 2027 calendar and locations. Like, so why not share the 25 stuff in advance with fans in the community? It makes no sense. So we're trying to do better there. But so we're gonna share that information with teams in advance, and we're hoping to do two types of patches or changes. One with bigger stuff, like when we launch a new map, launch a new agent, or we have bigger changes, and a smaller type of patch where we have tweaks and balances that aren't that impactful, that we can do, for example, when we don't have a 20-day gap, in the calendar. And those things are.
That makes sense, yeah. I've got a follow-up question as well. So we're taking, Lotus and Fractura coming in. Are you, when you say you're going to change maps like every season, I think it is that always going to be 2 maps, or is it going to be like 1 map, or can you even tell us that? And are you open to the idea of just fully killing off maps? Like maybe Breeze Icebox, so along those kind of lines of maps.
I like that you just had 2 suggestions of the ones that should be killed.
I mean, I echo that.
So the honest answer is I am not the best person to answer that question. I think there are a lot of things the team would consider if a map is just knowing what the philosophy is behind behind map design. We always want to have 1 or more maps that fulfill a similar role, in how they function, what type of thing makes the map dynamic, the number of sites and whatnot. So I feel like if a map feels at some point incredibly antiquated, and we feel like we have 2 other maps that fulfill that role well, I don't think that would be out of the question. But again, that would not be in my purview.
Time to add 2
decision.
more Breeze maps, just to make sure we have enough in the pool. We need more.
I had another question that's more kind of there are always questions about tier 2. There's always these questions about the tier 2 scene. And so one of the things we've kind of gone over a lot of these in previous years as well. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on this time around was that there have been more tier 2 organizations that have ended up leaving the scene. And we know that tier 2 is not necessarily a priority in terms of making it the most sustainable system. You want it to be kind of a feeder system into the tier 1 scene. But there are other esports. I mean, Counter-Strike is one of them that we're often going to get compared to because it's somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Where tier 2 organizations do find it worthwhile to be committing their time. It's slightly more of an open system. I think they have access to more sponsor opportunities because they can go for stuff like gambling sponsors and, I don't know, alcohol sponsors or whatever. There's kind of stuff that sometimes Riot seems to limit a little more. But how do you diagnose that issue going on at the moment? And where do you see, like, at what point would it become a problem for you that there are a level of tier 2 organizations that are disinterested? I think you're always going to get players that want to hunt for the big time. But part of, like you're talking about, developing the economy of the scene is making sure that they're not just completely doing it off their own backs.
Yeah. Dude, for starters, let me just say, I do not mind the questions about tier 2 at all. And I feel like I have put myself, and I take responsibility for it, in a very antagonistic position with tier 2 and challengers, which is so silly to think about because, look, we have every incentive to make it work and to make sure that scene is successful. And, I find it sad that, I think some folks in that scene look at us as, like, as we're not trying, So anyway, I don't mind at all because it is a big topic that is very top of mind for us, and we talk a lot about it internally as well. So look, there are a few things to touch on here. The first one, which is I mentioned in the letter, the way we measure success on challengers is the number of new players of talent joining our league and how fast they can get to the top, right? Because the reason for it to exist is to develop talent. So to answer your question very directly, when does it become a problem? The moment that we stop seeing new fresh blood into the sport, right? The moment we start like recycling the same players for the 5th year in a row, and I'm just saying 5th year as an arbitrary number. I don't know how many years it would take, but you get my point. I think that's when it's a problem. Now on orgs, there's a very interesting debate there because the one thing we've always prioritized in Valorant is we prioritize quality over quantity, right? And what that forces us to do is to focus on fewer organizations that we can sustain really well, right? We were talking about team like economy and capsule sales and revenue before. The challenge here is when you add more orgs to the sport, that pie doesn't grow. The only thing you do by adding more organizations into the sport is that you're slicing the pie into thinner slices. So you're essentially making a thing that's great for a few people. You're going to make it mediocre for a larger number of organizations. The thing that really grows the pie is adding more fans. So I think one could make the argument that, hey, you know what? New organizations don't really move the needle for the sport. But that doesn't mean we don't want to invest in them, because look, and we want to have a future where people who wants to be in Valorant can be in Valorant, and there's a path for that. And that's precisely why we have Ascension, right? We didn't have to have Ascension. We could very much have a closed league with 10 teams and just stop there. But we intentionally opted for a semi-open or a semi-closed, whatever you want to call it, league, because we want that path to exist. So looking in retrospect, and I mentioned that for those of you who watched at Ludwig and Tarek, looking in retrospect, I wished that our system was a little bit more open than it is right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like with 10 teams and 2 Ascension teams, like the door is slightly ajar. I wish it was a little bit more open. And there are many ways of making it more open, right? It could be that instead of having 10 partner teams and 2 Ascension, 10 plus 2, we could have 8 plus 4. We could have 6 plus 6. It could be that we create an LCQ, we bring LCQ back, and now non-partner teams can participate and have a shot of making every global event, both Masters and Champions. So there are a lot of ideas and way to skin this cat and make the ecosystem more open to make it more attractive for organizations to choose to invest in Valorant. Because look, we very much, as much as I'm here saying that more organizations don't necessarily grow the pie, we want people to invest. We want them to choose to be in our ecosystem, and we're very grateful when they choose to do so. But making those broader changes is going to take a little bit more time, and it's probably not going to come until 2027 when we end this first cycle of partnership, which is for 4 years. So 23, 4, 5, and 6, and then 27 we can make bigger changes. But yeah, I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop here.
Gotcha. I wanted to follow up on something that I think people are a little bit more positive about for once in the community regarding Tier 2. And that's Premier. Premier got introduced as a proper gateway to challengers for the first time this year. And I kind of wanted to ask you to reflect, you did it a little bit in your post, but to reflect a little on 2024 and kind of grade how well you think Premier in its first year did as a system and what you and Riot's hopes for the future for Premier is.
Yeah, look, it's very easy to look at Premiere right now and say, hey, there's so much to do, because like it's far from done. It's one of those things that's going to be like a long-term project, and there's a lot that we need to do to evolve not only the experience in game itself, but also its connection to challengers. But if you pause for a second and reflect that, yes, it was the first year, we're just very happy. Like, you know, because the whole point of Premiere is that almost imagining it as a tier 3 layer to the sport, but one that's very wide and robust, because literally anywhere, anyone, anywhere around the world, you know, can queue up as a 5 stack. And from that moment on, all that matters is that, are you good enough, right? Are you clicking heads and winning matches? And if you are, you can go all the way to the top of the pyramid, to the top of the sport. And we saw a lot of cases of success this year. So from that perspective, it's working really well. Still a lot of work to do. Also, on the non-esports professional competition standpoint, the team had one of the hypotheses of Premieres that it would be a great experience for any 5 friends to just show up and compete together, even if you wouldn't aspire to go pro. There's also a lot of work to do in that front to understand their needs and motivators, and, you know, why would people choose to do that instead of just playing rank. So a lot of work to do, but very happy with year 1.
Nice. I want to ask also, I think another big win this year was seeing Floor signed to a VCT team, the first woman, the first GC player to kind of make that leap. And kind of asking a similar question, reflecting on what GC is right now. Do you think it's fulfilling the goal of being that gateway to get more women and marginalized genders into Tier 2, into VCT and those kind of levels? And do you have any plans for the future that you think can improve that circuit?
Yeah. So GC always had 2 goals, right? One is give those players a stage, not only to hone their skills and practice in a safe environment where they're not being harassed all the time, but also give them the opportunity to be seen, right? Because look, before we created GC, we spent a lot of time talking to women and, you know, players in that scene, and all we heard is, all we're asking for is an opportunity, right? We're not asking for a quota, we're not asking for a guaranteed slot, we're just asking for an opportunity. So that was the first step, and we're now 3 years in. 4 years in, 3 years in, and I feel like we're fulfilling that role well. There is always, of course, things we can better at, and, you know, I like that the community is constantly putting pressure on us to, can you do more events? Can you go to a bigger venue? Can you give more slots to Brazil? Those are the right things to push on, and I appreciate that people are hungry for more. But that's the one function, and the other functions now is help with upwards mobility. And that's where we still have a lot of work to do. The one thing we did this year was to revisit all of our policies, roster construction rules, and we literally just went rule by rule, policy by policy, and say what type of hurdle exists today for Game Changers players that we can just get out of the way. And we implemented a bunch of them. Like, they are exempt from the import rule, right? They do not count as import. Floor does not count as an import in EMEA. They're exempt from the roster lock dates. They can be signed at any moment throughout the year. I won't have all of them from the top of my head, but there's probably a list of 8 to 10 things that we did to really try to, again, just get blockers out of the way. And that's the part where I feel like it's going to be the second era of game changers, and we can do a lot more there. With that said, look, we're going to see how he goes. I think we very much expect Floor to be very much in the spotlight and people to overly scrutinize her performance because of who she is, and we're going to do our best to give her support. But overall, just filled with optimism and excitement and hoping, she's the first of many cases.
That's awesome. And 4 slots to Brazil next year?
Oh, jeez.
Which region would you take a slot from to give more slots to
don't
Brazil?
know.
That's a
It's gonna be
good
EMEA.
question. Yeah. -1 EMEA, +1 Brazil, 3 and 2.
Oh, okay. Do you think it would be reasonable for the EMEA community to make the argument that, hey, we are in fact the best performing region because we have a championship title and they don't? Because that
It was the first
would
year,
hear.
I think, is the argument. And then there's been a
Fair.
finalist from Brazil the last 2 years. I also think you're just in a kind of a losing position to have to take away a slot from anyone else or put one in. There's kind of no winning. But
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking the question, just to show like the nuance behind the decision. Because look, I would love to give. Fuck, I'm Brazilian. I would love to give them 10 slots, but that's the challenge. And look, I think it was particularly hurtful just because he was Liquid, right? We all love that team, and I was kicking myself for not having them there. But I will say this. Philosophically, we aspire to just have parity and game changers like we have in the main circuit. I hope we can get to a point where we can give the 4 territories the same number of slots, because there's no reason why we wouldn't aim for parity in game changers like we have in the main circuit. And that's where my comments came from, like, hey, I don't want to give the Americas a 5th slot and keep EMEA with 2. Like, that disparity is too large. And then people pressured on the right thing, which is, well, sure, but the teams in the Americas regions never meet to compete. So
sure.
not to make any promises now, because the team would kill me, to commit to stuff before the plans are locked, but we're looking to address that.
Yeah, love that. Speaking of game changers, we had at least when I was streaming, we had like the 4 separate titles thing. I know it was like the first time Riot's like introduced that. Was that something that like
For
performed
the co-streamers,
well?
right? Where
Yeah,
everyone
for
had
the
their own.
co-streamers, you could like watch the 10 stream. It was Kaide actually, right? Kaide stream and then get like a unique drop.
What was
is
yours, Sliggy?
The Queen, of course.
The best.
You have to question it. And
Queen's
then,
League.
are you like is that something that like performed well? Are you kind of interested in using that for tier 2 in the future, tier 1? Like, what's the kind of look at or outlook on that, I guess?
Good question. We have as we do with every event, we do a retro where we get all teams together and debate what went well, what didn't. So just the honest answer, I don't know how we're going to use that in the future again, but the early signs are very positive, right? We did that as an experiment to see more creators willing to co-stream game changers because they would have something unique related to them in game. And the second thing is that going to move the needle for fans, right? Are they going to go engage with the multiple creators and co-streams to collect the titles, and will that as a consequence just attract more eyeballs to that competition? And I feel like the early signs are very, very positive. So to the extent that, again, the data confirms it, it's definitely a tool we would use for other competitions in the future.
Okay, I've got a really important question to end on. A massively important question.
I hear TMV. He just said.
No.
Just said you can't kill me.
No,
in the
I've got a question that I really need to get to here.
What did you do to
I'm back.
Josh?
I'm there. What did I do to him? You don't want to know. It's ugly. It's very ugly. Well, first thing I just want to say is a bit of unsolicited advice. Please take
I'll
it if
take
you want,
it.
Leo. Don't if you want. You might have already done this, to be honest. But as you're talking about the titles, I would just say, if the team capsules also had titles in them, like you buy the crew bundle, you get Vamos Crew. You buy a
Oh,
Sen
that'd be
bundle, you
sick.
get Sen
That's
City as a
nice.
title.
That would actually
Just-
be sick. Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like that's really
just-
easy to add too.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. But we only have really one time for one crucial question, Leo. Are you a member of Plat Chat Valorant?
You know what? I'm not. And I'm embarrassed to say that I'm not.
I'm
but
about to
gonna
explain
be.
to you why you should be. Okay? Because here's the thing: if you become a member
Nice
of the
flag.
Plat Chat Discord, you can. The Plat Chat member on YouTube, you can become access to the members only Discord. Yes, I haven't done this. I'm practicing. Okay, I'm taking over for Sideshow. He's bald. He's been doing this a while. I've still got full head of hair, so we're working on it. Okay, but you can get access to the Discord. You can get access to exclusive shows like the Forbidden episode that I still have never seen and wasn't on.
It's a
Sliggy,
good
have you
one.
seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
He hasn't seen it. We don't know what it is. It could be anything.
We broke a room service cart in the elevator at Champions 2022. Random food kept appearing. No one was really sentient for it. You should pay for it. It was a good episode.
And you can ask member questions like this one. Kurt, play the image. If VCT did an all-star week, how would you structure it? And which region would come out on top? So, if you could make a team of all of the talent in one region, and this is interesting, and we might need to think about it because, of course, EMEA keeps importing NA players. We'll talk about that in a bit. But which team would come out on top, Leo?
I think it's a two-parter there too. Like,
we'll
is
get to
this
the second
something you think would be cool? Like to structure something like this too?
This could be very cool. We did an all-star event for League of Legends for many years. The challenge we faced there and eventually decided to stop doing it is because it was just hard, especially with the league season being long, and ours is kind of long now with champs ending in October, that players were just like, hey, I don't want to do this, right? They were like, we want to take time away with our families, we want to go practice, and being in an event like this is not doing any of those things. But I really like the idea of something that just celebrates the community around this time of the year. We've talked before about the idea of an awards show where we could kind of honor the best players of the season. So look, I get excited. I would, if we were to create one though, I would have to think harder about that, not to fall into that same trap, like in challenge of pros not being super eager to engage in.
Who would win?
I like it.
Okay, wait 1 second
Oh.
before you move on to that. Hear me out. I've never seen a 20-something with too much disposable income be more motivated than anything but the Rolexes at the Ludwig Tarek event. If you give them a stupid status symbol, they will care.
Very true.
That is a good point.
Very true. Funny you mentioned that because during Champions I was chatting with a few folks and I asked Potter, hey, be honest with me, are the cubes lame? Should we do something else? Because we give players a cube when they win the World Championship. It's the same cube that is in the middle of the Champs Trophy.
The little Radiant Cube that you guys
That's
walk up and
exactly
give
right.
out.
And she's like, hey, these players want the drip. They want something that they can show off on Instagram, but the cubes are not it. So, just corroborating with your point that maybe something like that would work.
I mean, you did start doing it with the MVP bracelet that
That's
we
right.
saw both for Kung and the one that Floor won, which
That's
were
right.
both pretty sick.
Right.
But which
There's
team would
something
win
there.
the All-Star Week is the real question. Which
Is it
region?
a team or a region?
It's like the best players from each region compete in an All-Star
Oh,
Weekend. Which
Okay.
one wins?
I'm going to be called biased, of course, but I think I'll have to play safe and just go with Americas, just because of the track record. A lot of very solid players across NA and LATAM and Brazil. Feel like it's a safe bet, but I mean, look, being Val, anyone can win. But,
Yeah,
Well, there you
that's
go.
pretty fair.
All right. TMV has killed Sideshow, so
Yeah.
I think I think that's it. I mean, thank you so much for coming on, Leo. We always appreciate you coming by and giving a little reflection on the year, answering some questions. Anything you want to say? Anything we should look forward to going into the new year before we let you go?
look, I think just thank you to everyone, really. Like we know there are many great games and experiences and things people can choose to do at this day and age, and we're just very grateful that that people choose to be in Val. We do not take it for granted. We're always listening. We appreciate the feedback, even when it's heated. We're always listening, and just very, very grateful for everyone, the fans, but of course everyone who works to make the VCT what it is. The pros and the teams and the crew, and it really takes a village. And this was a great year, also a challenging year, but above all, a really great year. And I'm just very, very grateful. And 25 is going to be, I know we've said that a few times now, 2025 is going to be special. Like, and every year is special, but 25 is extra special because it's, the 5th anniversary of Val.
Half decade of Valorant. That's kind of
right.
crazy.
That's right. Not every game gets the opportunity to celebrate 5 years. Again, we do not take it for granted, and we want to, just make it, make it special and celebrate that moment. So we have a lot of really, really good stuff in store. Events are going to be dope. Hopefully the league in the face of the year is going to feel better. Just very excited. I cannot wait. And thank you all.
Yeah, thanks so much, Leo. I hope you get some time off to chill before things get crazy again next year.
Will do.
And thanks so much for joining us.
All right, friends. I will see you next time. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye, Leo.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
Welcome
Don't
back,
bring
Josh.
him back. Don't bring him back.
Josh?
Leave him.
What did you do to him, TMV?
You wouldn't believe where I've been. It's crazy down there. TMV, I'm so sorry we put you in there.
Yeah.
All right, nice little interview then. I mean, that basically wraps up the show, apart from the other fucking 80 hours of Valorant
The other
that was going
already
on.
extremely long run of show, even without that interview.
Yeah, genuinely. This off-season, I didn't really get a chance to ask Leo this, but this off-season actually feels like the first real off-season we've had, but it's like as much Valorant as there was in the on-season, man.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. Well, before we get into that, though, we've got a sponsor. I said earlier that we were sponsored by Manscaped and Factor this week, so let's talk to you about one of them. We're going to talk to you about Factor Meals. I appreciate you all tuning in today, and if you're hungry, well, get some food. Factormeals.com. You can use the code Valorant50 and you can get 50% off. And Factor Meals they're a meal delivery service, and they give you meals that are fully ready to go. You just sling them in the microwave, heat them up, and they've been prepped to make sure that they've got all the good nutrients you need in order to survive. I know you're a gamer, you're a degenerate, you barely eat, or you eat too much. It's either one or the other. You don't have a proper diet going on if you're a degenerate gamer tuning into our podcast. So instead of spending a ridiculous amount of money on takeaway meals or cooking stuff for yourself that your mum taught you how to make when you were 16 years old, and you're cooking the same meal every single night, every week, with no variation, and probably missing out some vitamin C, you're actually gonna.
Crazy. It's so targeted
If
to
you're
me.
one of our viewers living in Iceland who doesn't ever open his window and is streaming for 12 hours a day,
You've got slugs on your bedsheet.
Are you eating chicken and rice every day? Well, you should not be. It's crazy.
Are you potentially going to be one of the new people getting scurvy? Did you know that scurvy's actually making a resurgence because people are eating so poorly they're not getting vitamin C in their
Scurvy's
diets?
in, baby.
It's not in, it's not good. But anyway, the point being that you could avoid all of this by going to factormeals.com/Valorant50. You can use code Valorant50 for 50% off, and you get 20% off your next month as well. You get 50% off that first box and then 20% off the next month. So have a look at that. It might end up being very well worth your while.
They're very
Okay.
tasty.
I think you should pitch that to them as their next slogan.
Avoid scurvy.
Avoid
by Factor.
scurvy.
Factor Meals. Use code Valorant50. They do have the little. Sorry, I'm just plugging.
No, go on.
When they sent me the boxes when we got the sponsorship, they sent like some little like sippas with it, like some little like juices and little smoothie things and stuff that also have vitamin C and stuff, and probably stop you from getting scurvy, and were really tasty. And
Nice.
the food
Really
was actually
going all
really
in
good
on
too.
this.
Yeah, those the anti-scurvy
Don't give me
juice.
scurvy.
Gamers, you need
That's
this.
what they're called.
You need our spiced apple flavor anti-scurvy juice. All right, at the end of, I think it was at the end of Spotlight. No, yeah, it was at the end of Spotlight. The developers did a stream. Actually, it might have been like right before the finals or something.
Was there?
It was
Yeah, there was like a
concurrent.
str-
It was concurrent,
America's
Oh, it
unfortunately.
was concurrent at the same time. Okay.
Elf
that's-
scheduling question mark?
Yeah, a bit weird. But they did a stream where they were doing like an end of year thing. There was an artist on there designing a spray, etc. And they also dropped the trailer for Agent 27, who is
It's
from
Hitman.
Colombia. Is it?
Agent 27. It's Hitman. Like
You're
from the hit
missing
game
it.
Hitman.
Is
You're
this
missing
going to
like
be your
20 there.
Bren moment?
Bren
where you
would have gotten
predict-
this.
Yeah.
Hitman's
what's up.
code is he's Agent 27.
No,
The
he's Agent
Hitman-
47, isn't he? He's Agent 47.
He
Your
is.
reference is miles off.
He is.
Damn,
Fuck.
dude, you're 20
Okay.
too early.
Let's come back to this in Plat Chat Valorant episode 397 when we get to Agent 47. and then you can make that same joke, and then I'll go, what a good reference.
Thank you.
What do you think? Colombian Initiator, drinking coffee.
He has an arepa.
He has a what?
Arepa?
Excuse me?
It's like a traditional Colombian food thingy. It's the thing there.
Okay. Never
Well,
had
how
one.
do
Is
you
it
type that?
similar
I
to a
want to Google
pupusa?
it.
Arepa. Clearly, you guys have not been playing whatever that food guesser game is.
Clearly, we haven't been having factor meals. That we've all just got scurvy.
I
I don't know what a rapper is.
It's like a maize like flatbread like sandwichy thingy. I think
It looks very good.
they're
actually.
very tasty.
Delicious.
That looks very good. Any thoughts about what you would like this initiator to be doing? Like, if you had a cool initiator idea, do you think there's a niche missing?
I don't know what I want him to do, but I was doing some digging in the video and some other stuff, and a couple things came up. If I can find the notes where I wrote it down.
She's gonna be a big. She's gonna pull
For
back that
one.
green screen. It's gonna
For
be
one.
full of red
The ideas, they're everywhere. For one, he very specifically put on his sunglasses before getting off the plane, before going to dive,
Yep,
which
yep.
could
Right.
be something that's important. They only shows 3
Flash.
items on this page. And my question is, what if he has some kind of like anti-flash or see-through smokes or some weird ability like
X-ray
that?
vision.
I'm thinking like Warden from Rainbow Six Siege, who has an ability where he can turn on his little thing and not get flashed and see through smokes and do crazy shit like that. What if he's like a KO-esque, some kind of like anti-utility ability like that?
That's a cool idea. I hate it, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah, dude, the see-through smokes makes me worried as hell. But it could,
Okay,
it
wait.
could be a thing.
I mean,
On
that'd
top
have
of
to be an
whole
alt or
notebook.
something, wouldn't it?
On top of that, people
Yeah.
were data mining and they found in his files the name like Glass Tech was like or it was like a leaked name. Glass Tech. So I think the glasses are somehow difficult. Another idea. Another Rainbow Six Siege idea. Mentioned
Okay.
twice. That's fucking crazy. If you've ever heard of the agent Mira in that game, she has an ability where she basically puts down a big one-way bulletproof glass window inside of a reinforced wall. She can see through it, but you can't see back. It's bulletproof, but there's a little canister on it you can shoot, and then the window breaks, and then you can fire through it. What if there was some kind of piece of utility like that, where you could have like a one-way seeing thing, like through a wall, or place something down, and kind of get information through it?
Okay.
Okay.
As long as you can destroy it, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess if you can
Yeah.
destroy it. It sounds.
How do you
broken up.
destroy it though without
In Ra-
facing it?
Yeah,
and
So
being
in
killed?
Rainbow
yeah.
Six Siege, you have to use basically a like some kind of breaching charge you could use for destroying a reinforced wall. I haven't played Siege in years, but there's like the Japanese girl with like, I think she's Japanese. I'm not really sure. This could be a bad road to go down, guessing nationalities. But she has like the big launcher that throws out the 6 little pucks, and then that breaks the wall, and then it breaks like that. I don't know how the fuck that would work in Valorant.
All I'm getting is that
What is this game,
only
bro?
Rays can break the wall. Like there is only
Yeah.
one counter to it.
I think
let's
my
introduce
first
hard
idea
counters.
is more likely that
Yeah,
the
I like
glasses have
the-
some significance,
I
and
like the
they're
glasses.
something like that.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that has something to do it. Like some kind of scan initiator, and there's like glasses to do
Oh,
something.
what's her name? What? Habana.
Where is she from?
She is Japanese. Okay. Not canceled.
Okay.
Let's
Nailed
go.
Yep, that's very good. Very good. Very good.
See, my
Uh,
thoughts were always that they try to make agents that are somewhat similar to other agents. You got your Sova for your Fade, you've got your Deadlock for Sage, etc. The one initiator that I think kind of doesn't have that is Breach, like a no info, kind of deep lying, not recon, but like full support, like a kind of deep lying support. With Gecko or KO or Sky, you kind of, you're kind of more in there, you're kind of more with the team. So I thought maybe you could get something like that where, there's a bit of a gap there to be a Breach pick is.
I understand your thought process, but I'd be surprised if they released another agent that's so similar to Breach in terms of being very heavily
yeah.
supportive, because the Breach win rates have always been like in the floor, I think, in ranked. So I don't think it's something that has actually ended up translating that well to just people enjoying playing it regularly in games, despite the fact that at a pro level you can get good use out of it.
I don't know. I'm really stuck on this like seeing through smokes idea.
Do you think that's why they've nerfed the pings?
Yeah.
now
What
because
if
they're
she's
like,
like
Could
the
be.
one agent in the post plant, or yeah, who could like swing out and like just see through a smoke and spam? What if you could like give the ability to your teammates too? Or even further, what if you have
what?
like a
There's only
flash?
one pair of glasses. What are you doing? Passing the
It's
glasses.
like a
3D
fucking 3D
glasses before
movie.
you-
Yeah, you have to put it back in the bin at the end, but he knows that everyone's just gonna steal it and take it back home anyway. But I don't know. That could be cool.
That could actually be a thing because they do like all the time they'll do a change that actually like gives you some kind of hint. Like they would remove the boom bots, like how long the
Yeah,
boom bot lasted
half
before
time 'cause it's wingman. Yeah.
before wingman. So honestly, the ping stuff and smokes could be a thing. I think you're on something.
I think
All
this
right.
is just Warden from Rainbow Six Siege. I'm calling my ball. I think maybe he has like just like some boring flash to go alongside it, and then he has Warden goggles, and then like another ability that is something.
Well, that's very specific
Oh.
of you. That's great.
By the way, this character fucking sucks in Siege, unless they buffed him since I played last 4 years ago. But
This character looks so similar to Mike Wozniak, who's a UK comedian who was on Taskmaster. He just looks identical to him. That's so
Taskmaster is
bizarre.
a goated show.
It is a fantastic show, yeah. Should we talk about the actual patch that's happened then, rather than just speculating on what might end up happening? Look, he's the same person. It's the same person.
We'll move on.
It's actually the same person,
It is.
man. It's what Bren wishes he looked like.
I think it's kind of a dub that we are
Jason.
getting a Latin American agent, though.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I saw, like, the reaction in the tweet. The, like, Colombian fans were fucking, "Oh, Colombia mentioned! He has a coffee! He has an arepa! With this meme, which I understand, I wake up, there is another. Gloria inmarcible y jubilo inmortal. Which I know what that means.
Wow, that was phenomenal. Phenomenal. A
And
polyglot
all the
on
Colombian
show.
fans are now sad again.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's move on to talking about the actual patch notes, man.
The show needs to be longer, Mimi. So keep.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
going
I'll
on-
make sure
on these
to.
tangents.
Okay, so we got pretty massive patch, right? This is it nerfs Neon really significantly, but I think more so than that, the changes to the pinging system are actually the most dramatic change in the entire thing. But I guess let's start with the ping system, because we were just talking about it a little bit, referencing maybe this agent doing something.
He's
So
the one
smokes
agent
now
that can
block
ping.
pings. Just that's what you're allowed to do, is use the old ping system.
They really run out of ideas.
For an ult, yeah.
So I don't know if you've been able to play the game, but the pings have a different sound. They pop up differently on the minimap. They have like a little circle that now like goes like boop on the minimap. But if you ping on the minimap, other teammates can only see that on the minimap. They don't see it in the world. And if you try to do the pings that appear in the world, those have to be from your line of sight. And those get blocked by smokes. I threw 3 rounds yesterday across multiple post plants by falling back into positions that would normally be the perfect post plant spot, and then someone just got into a clove smoke and defused. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I couldn't do this anymore. It does seem to have made a fairly large difference in ranked, at least already.
Yes, and I think it probably will in pro play too. I honestly think that like this is significant enough that it's really heavily nerfs the like just get off site every round, put a smoke in front and spam stuff. I was playing quite a few games with it last night, and it is a lot harder to just guess where you're spamming for the spike. It's really easy to just mess up and let a defuse come through. And I think it will force people to play more on site. On top of that, it changes a lot of the little things about how you play that you never really thought about. For instance, like if you're so vaulting, you used to be able to ping to like get the
So
proper like elevation and azimuth to like angle at, and now it's like you're like calling an artillery blind and you can't see
Yeah.
anything about where it's
Or if
going.
you're standing in a smoke as well, and you try and like ping a wall for your
Yeah.
silver dart so you don't
Yep.
miss. And you
Yeah,
just
a
ping the
lot
smoke.
of things I
Being
do is
outside
like
smoke.
pinging to throw utility through smokes, things like that. Like that's all
Killing
gone.
Killjoy ults is a huge one as well, because you could
Yeah.
ping exactly where it was and you would hit all 3 blasts. Definitely got detained multiple times during my ranked games yesterday because my Sovas were missing their ults onto the Killjoy lockdown. These things, the pros will be able to figure out, you know, like the lineup for it. They'll know if I stand here and aim at this, then we make sure that we get the lockdown most of the time. We might see a little bit more of those errors creeping into the pro level, but in ranked, it's a massive nerf to to like your average ranked Sova, and it's a lot better for like the power of smokes, the power of post plant smokes, the power of a killjoy lockdown. It's mad.
So just to get this right, so if I'm in game, but I'm alive and I ping, it doesn't come up for anyone. I thought it was
So
just when you're
it'll
dead.
show on the minimap, but it will
Right.
not show in the world. So
Okay,
you will
that's
hear a
even for
different little
yourself.
blip sound, and you'll see it on the minimap. But the only way you get 3D pings is by pinging with Z. I tested. There's like no way around it. Even if you're in like astral form, it shows up as a minimap ping, not as a like in the world space Z ping. And on top of that, you cannot Z ping through smokes anymore. If you're standing in a smoke and you're trying to like ping a wall, like you're talking about for your Sova dart, it'll just hit the edge of the smoke and won't show you anything.
Yeah.
Mm. I'd say I like the
big.
change, but I can imagine in ranked it's absolute hell to be honest. So, but I think in like pro play, I think this is good because I do think that teams, not that many teams are good at it, but it's like some teams used to coordinate like left right, and you could proper just like one person pings the left side, one person pings the right side, because obviously if one person does it, they're too close and it erases it. Like all of those kind of extra protocols are gone. Smokes get a little bit of a buff, which I guess is worrying, but it does stop a good amount of the spam meta, or at least like feeling as confident in the spam meta, unless like you're doing a normal smoke and then you have something above you that you line up with in terms of like this is the rough outline of this plant.
Yeah,
but it's just something that makes it the skill level higher, and we'd never get that in Valorant.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
always
kind of
feel
happy.
like they do the other way
Yeah,
around.
it's always
It
to
is-
make it noob friendly.
It is a good thing. It's definitely going to make post plans more interesting as well. I think that's great. It's definitely a quality of life decrease for people in ranked as well. And I saw that people were pissed about this in the casual Valorant community. If you look at like that stream I was talking about, where they were announcing, doing their little end of year recap thing and showing the trailer of the new agent and stuff, almost every message in the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat was like, "What have you done to the pings? This is horrendous. Reverse the ping change." So I think people dislike the idea of it, but I think it will be healthier for the game, even though it is a quality of life decrease. Just for like, you're queuing with somebody and you're like, "Can you smoke this?" And you ping, and they have to then look at their minimap to see where exactly you pinged because it doesn't show up right in front of them. These kind of things are definitely more.
Oh, dude, that's
Annoying.
fine. They
Can
look
I
at the
quickly
minimap.
give the dissenting opinion?
No.
Which is that I think in post plants at the pro level, it will make a difference when there's one person, two people, maybe three people there. I don't think it would make as big of a difference if there are 4 or 5 people playing for a post plant spam. Because I think when you have so many people spamming, and you're talking about pros, who can they can practice exactly where they want to plant. So you scrim, we are planting in this exact spot, and you then know, we practice it over and over again, we then know where to spam. If you got 4 pro players, 5 pro players, ping or not, I feel like that's enough bullets just on its own to where you still could run a successful post-plant spam.
But I still feel like
you touched on the right point that they have to practice it now.
yes.
Yeah. But if that's still the best way of running a post plant, if you think that's the best way of running a post
In
plant,
imperfect situations, though, I think that's where this really matters. I think the most broken thing about the ping system was how you could do stuff on the fly, right? You have an normal plant.
I have no
You're
problem
playing
with the
from a
change.
weird position, and then you can just spam because of what you're talking about, left, right ping, and then you have perfect accuracy. It forces you to think a little bit, and it's not always the highest EV play to go off site, smoke yourself off, and spam, which I think is all this change was trying to do, and I really think it'll achieve that.
What I dislike about it as well is that the maps team have not tried to come up with a maps-based system of dealing with this as much.
It is criminal.
It is
actually criminal.
Just shirked their responsibility and gone into pushing it onto the ping system, because there are maps in the game that completely get around this issue. Like Ascent B site, the entrance does not face the site, so it is possible. A split on A as well. Yeah, you can't. If you plant for a situation where you could fall back and spam, like the Heaven plant, you actually have to go and retake an entirely different area of the map with which to get that sight line. You don't just get that part of the map control right from the beginning. Yeah, so many of the maps are designed with entryway goes to a box that splits front sight and back sight. You plant in front of the box so that you don't have to take back sight control, and then you walk out. And the whole exec is shoot, and that's that I think is just a bit of poor map design that we should start trying to make a lot better. And maybe this is going to mean that we don't have to do that.
I mean, the issue is
and
it's
we
so
still have the same
prolific.
stuff.
Both sites on Abyss, both sites on Pearl, one site on Ascent. Like, every map, B site split, every map has at least one egregious site.
Yeah, for this issue. I agree.
Yeah.
But I think that's, again, another problem with just how they've set it up.
I think that's the biggest problem in Valorant. I feel like we're going to actually go with what is the biggest problem in Valorant. It is the map design. Like, it really is. Like, you got to look at even just to the bigger level, like Abyss. Like, what am I actually meant to do on defense? I have to either play a site or I have to retake or rotate all the way through spawn. I have two options. Like, I can't do anything good on the map. Like, the maps are a giant issue in this game. And I think you're just talking of like a little micro point.
Yeah.
But then I think there's loads of micro points. You put it all together and it just leads up to the big issue that the maps in this game aren't good.
I also don't want that to seem like the map design team is incompetent, because I think if you compare it to like Counter-Strike, for example, a point that I always bring up here is that Counter-Strike has had not just many, many years, like literally decades, 2 decades of being able to iterate, but they also opened it up to the community, and the community made like a lot of the incredibly good maps that then Valve bought and tweaked around. So it's not like they had one dedicated team that were just a lot better than Valorant's team.
I mean, the thing is, though, that you're acting as if Valorant didn't go and buy the community map makers from CSGO.
Of course, but by putting it out there and making it more open.
That's true.
No, yeah,
But
their best.
You put everything into cash.
3-site maps. That's the issue. Like, their best sites are the best maps are the 3-site maps. Really,
They are,
if you're thinking like pro play of like how you can react, just because they're like longer with things to do in the middle, they just need to honestly just stick with 3 sites maybe.
For sure.
I think
That's
Ascent
a
is
prime thing.
I think Ascent's another really well
Ascent's
designed
good.
one in terms of the sites as well. Like you can't exactly just all fall back into A main because the choke point is so small. So there is actually an incentive to play more like on the site stuff. Anyway, sorry, I feel like we're getting derailed.
No,
here.
yeah,
We
we
are,
could go
but
on for ages.
episode
Josh,
Yeah,
the
that's
good
awful.
news is the Wicked Witch is dead. Praise be. They
Oh,
nerfed
what?
Neon.
Is the Wicked Witch dead? Or
Oh,
did
I
we
think
just kill
she's
a lot
very
of like
dead.
Nah,
her
she's
little
pretty dead.
followers or something?
No,
No,
she's
I
pretty
think
dead.
she's
She got
unbelievably
The
dead.
house.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant the ping system. You mean
no,
Neon?
we're talking
I mean,
Neon.
Neon.
Yeah. Neon.
Oh,
Wicked-
House
yeah,
thing
praise
does.
be.
The Wicked Witch, capital V, Josh.
There's only shoes left. That's it.
Yeah, okay, so Neon compared to where she was at before they ever buffed her, better or worse?
Worse.
Worse.
I'd say roughly.
think?
I'd say the same.
Yeah,
I think worse because I think
because
2 slides had like huge utility. Like Neon now is like you're allowed 1 set play and then the agent is useless.
yeah. Like, what's my default now? I use my only stun or I use my only slide? Like, I'm fucked. At least you had 2 slides. You could use 1 slide for a default to pop off a pop flash, or you could do like a stun for your default. Now what do? Just run fast a little bit? So take some map control, send it. It's very all-in agent.
Yeah.
But I will say, fucking love this. Like, I'm in for it. Like, kill it. I hated watching this. It was fun for about 2 weeks, and now it's just shit.
The problem with you, Sliggy, though, is you've consumed too much Neon content in the off-season.
Oh, yeah, no,
so
it's awful.
actually, the majority of the viewer base didn't even get one good big tournament to watch this.
Trust me, just take it from me. You didn't miss out. Like, you can just watch like a Jorgamore
That's not
2-minute
true.
highlight.
Neon was
No,
fun.
this was fun.
Neon was fun.
You're so fucking jet race build. You're so like so many people are like this. Like the devs apparently are like this, where
No, but-
every map must be referred to a jet or race map. Anything else is beyond our comprehension.
There
We
are
cannot
only
have
2
it.
genders.
There
Jet
are
map
only
and race
2
map.
duelists in the game.
Guys. But like, I can't do the most perfect util and just have some idiot jumping about that means that my util's pointless. Like, I need to be rewarded for the good stuff. I'm not getting rewarded. There's just a Neon that beats all the timing.
Yeah, but you
slides
didn't
on
have to
me,
kill
shoots
the
me when
agent either.
sliding.
Just give it different shit then.
Yeah, but now people have used it a little bit, and then they'll eventually buff it. This is better. The other nerf is better than not doing enough. They nailed it.
The thing is, like, I feel like saying this wasn't fun to watch is the most curmudgeon take. I think it was inarguably fun to watch and horrible to play against.
I mean, sure, but it was only fun for the first 2 weeks. It's not, guys. It's not fun watching someone slide out, have an unfair duel. A 50-50 duel is great. When someone has an 80-20% advantage, I don't care about watching the person on 80 just sliding unhittable. It's got a bug, so my head bobs up and down, so you can't hit me.
I think Sliggy, you're showing your age and not thinking
No,
about
no,
the TikTok
it's
children.
a lot of people
The TikTok
in the
children.
chat. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people in the chat are going to be like, "No, based Sliggy. I only like it when people play perfect Valorant as well." And then they're pogging about somebody getting an ace in an anti-eco round with a Marshall, and they're like, "Oh my god, one of the greatest players of all time!" This is the kind of
If you hit a
know,
side
that's
before
the-
40 seconds, I'm not interested.
No, but I'm not saying that's not good. That's just you're mixing stuff up. I'm just saying that it's not fun to watch someone that has an 80% advantage in a duel or that can just
Sure.
disrespect all the crap.
I think this might actually, right now we're really happy, obviously, because she's not going to be terrorizing ranked. She's not going to be terrorizing pro play anymore. But I think in the long term, we are going to reflect on this as an L change. Because I think what they should have done is basically just reverted her back. Because at least old Neon was viable in coordinated play, and you could get value out of the stuns. I think they just needed to massive movement inaccuracy increase on the slide. Don't let her do the bullshit anymore, and the agent's fine. Because I think an agent that has 2 slides and that mobility and a good stun is interesting to watch and cool. I think an agent that has pretty useless slide and 1 stun is like, no one's ever going to pick her anymore, which I think is a shame.
I think you had to keep the current, like, I don't agree with the reverting, because I think the new movement on Neon is vastly superior, just for quality of life, for the way that you can play, for freedom of expression, of skill expression. The like new Neon movement is way, way, way better compared to when you could only run forwards in a straight line and the sprint speed. It was so sluggish. But
what's it though? I think the only difference is slide accuracy. No,
you couldn't
No,
run
they
sideways
changed.
or backwards.
Oh, you're
or
right.
anything.
You're right. I'm saying keep that. I'm just saying
right.
revert the slide
Revert the-
accuracy.
Okay, so the other thing, the reason that when we were talking about Neon nerfs as well, I wasn't a fan of slide inaccuracy is because I think if you're playing against a Neon now and you get slide killed, you're going to be
it's
more
more
pissed
frustrated.
off
Yeah.
because you know that they didn't actually land a good shot
Do
on you.
anything, yeah.
They just got kind of a bit lucky with the crouch accuracy. And so what I wish they had done is slow down the speed of the slide so that it isn't that 80-20 duel that Sliggy's talking about. It's a bit more of like a 50-50 one. But what they've actually done is give her the same unhittability, right? You can't hit her as the same way. But now if she kills you, you feel cheated. You don't feel outplayed. And so that's what I don't like about this nerf. I wish that they had nerfed her speed when sliding instead of the accuracy. I know everybody wanted an accuracy decrease, but I think it's more annoying to die to crouch walking accuracy slide rather than actually having a chance to outplay her while she's sliding. And I think that was the wrong change here.
I think that's fair.
What if shooting while sliding slowed you down?
But you still get to do the first bullet.
Wait, so
You're gonna do like something peaks where you're slowing down
Yeah,
mid
you're,
slide.
like,
You're going
tapping
slide,
when you go
tap,
fast.
tap.
That's
Yeah.
such a
Changing
funny
your speed.
idea. So like you're using the Odin, and as you rev it up and rev it down, you're changing
You start
speed.
sliding backwards. Just
Yeah, and you have recoil that pushes you backwards while you slide. Okay, let's move on. There was other stuff in this patch, wasn't there, as well?
That
Was there
vice
something
buff,
else?
Slight vice buff.
What was the vice buff?
They just changed
It
down
does
to
more
bits.
damage to the Razor Vine. It's actually kind of big.
Oh, right.
Doesn't
it's,
the like throwing distance change too? So all the cringed lineup heads are gonna have to redo their shit.
It's not the throw, unless I missed it. I
It's-
think it's just like when you do stuff that lands above stuff, it doesn't fall down as much anymore. So like you could, on an exec on A on split, you could do it on the rafters and it would fall down to like the bottom.
Mm.
But now it would just get just the ramp itself. Or
What
Gotcha.
does
just,
450
heaven.
to 300 even mean? Is that
No
the size of like a Radianite box, 300? I don't know what those
Sometimes they
units
use
mean.
numbers in this game, and it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? I remember when they changed fucking
mean, if they said, like,
Astra's
one-
overall smoke distance to like
Yeah.
12,000, and it was like,
Before we move on, quick, could you pull up the image of the patch notes again? Look at that number in the top right. I'm just saying that might have some implication for what's going on to Neon.
That's not. And why is that?
I I feel like I think we have some really intelligent viewers who can figure the joke out.
Right.
I think we have some really intelligent and I wouldn't want to ham-fist a joke, Josh. I wouldn't do that personally.
Well, I'm just gonna put it out there and say I didn't get the joke. I don't understand it. So let's move on.
It's for an
shall we?
American audience.
Yeah, I think it is. Let's talk. Let's talk Fnatic signing crashies, because this happened earlier this morning. I think they announced it like a few hours ago, 2 hours or something ago. And this is a really sad signing, because to me it indicates that they have some degree of confidence that Leo is not going to be returning, or at least is less likely to return than they thought he was. And so as much as it's nice to see crashies find a home, when I saw this, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. It just confirms at least Kickoff. Like at least Kickoff. And then honestly probably more.
And I mean,
as
the
well.
thing is, if he's not playing Kickoff, it's probably not this year. I feel like it makes it very unlikely.
It's also gonna be like hard to come back. A lot of stuff would have changed. I mean, he'll be capable of doing it, but yeah, for Leo, it's not looking great in terms of making it, at least for the first quarter of next year.
Yeah. Pretty rough. I mean, in terms of the roster then that Fnatic is going to be playing with, so crashies coming in, how do you feel about that?
It's like one of the best they could have got, right? Because this is what I was thinking. Because if Leo's out, you're looking at EMEA. No joke, the only person that you would consider is Ardis, really, if you think of people that haven't been picked up. Then you got to consider Ardis. And then you got Americas to fill Leo role. You're looking at Brock, crashies, and then probably Rossy. But I'm not sure that had enough time in terms of Rossy getting. Oh, we'll talk about that in a bit, I'm pretty sure. So I think this is a good move for them. I think this is one of the best people they could have picked up. crashies is legit. I don't think he's a Leo, but I think he's proven like one of the best in this role. And he's very experienced. And I think the big thing here is he's got such a point to prove. He was on that shocker of an NRG lineup. And I feel like everyone that was on that team, like at least if you're a competitor, you would look at that and you'd be like, I would need to prove to everyone that I'm like that's not me, basically.
I think if you're looking at signings that they could have made at this point, you know, assuming that this obviously came later on than most signings in the offseason, like, you know, this is about as good as you could ask for, really. Like, I think they've almost got fortunate here, Fnatic, that, you know, that like such a kind of someone who you can kind of trust, essentially, that you know that, okay, they're not going to be complete shit. You know, like someone of that ilk is even available kind of, you know, to just pick up at kind of short notice. Where it stands Fnatic, because like I think a lot of, if I was thinking of like, if you would have told me, oh, Fnatic are going to be, you know, like winning titles again next year, I think a lot of that for me would have come from, oh, Leo's going to be back and he's going to be playing like one of the best players in the world. So obviously without Leo, I think it does put a bit of a ceiling on what you can probably expect for them.
In my
this
opinion,
season.
though, I think versus pretty much any other signing they could have got, I see the highest ceiling for this team being with crashies. I think it's tragic that they're not going to have Leo, but I feel like he is the best possible case scenario replacement. Like, he's a direct one-for-one role swap. He's also an expert on Sova. He's also a vocal player. He's very experienced at international events. I feel like it is like the dream scenario if you're losing a Leo to be able to get a crashies. I'm
confused why they hadn't accounted for the possibility of this far earlier on, because I never really understood why they were running with Sayonara this offseason. They obviously want to develop Sayonara. They think that he's a good talent. He's way too young. Like, you literally can't use him during the season as a replacement. That just seemed like really bad management decision from them, because they've actually wasted a lot of time that they could have been spending on getting crashies. Like, you know, they could have had an extra like maybe 2 months or something of scrimming with this team. So I'm confused by that. I can only imagine that it's something to do with like Leo's health and them just genuinely thinking that he was going to be there for next season and not accounting for the fact that he might not be. But I think that's far too optimistic thinking. You've got to plan for the worst in some of these situations.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I agree. They probably just thought he was going to be fine. Because in an ideal world, like if you wanted to have Sayonara, you're just doing the academy team and you just lock him early. So yeah, I kind of agree. But I do think the reason is they were just like, because I'm pretty sure when they were trialing people, he was playing. I swear I saw someone talking about that. So he was at least like involved in some of the trials of kayak. I thought. So I guess they were thought, oh, he's playing playing in the trials. He must be fine. So yeah, I don't know. It's a bittersweet signing, basically, like how you said.
Yeah.
But crashies will do good, and he has a point to prove, and I back him on this. I think it'd be good. I think this is probably the best pickup they could have done.
Do you think we'll see Fnatic playing against NRG? Getting crashies playing against.
God, I hope so.
NRG
That's
would be
awesome.
very good.
It could be unbelievable.
Well,
Yeah.
NRG just had a really excellent start to their offseason, so I have high expectations.
They really did, didn't they? Should we move on to talking about that then? The SOOP tournament is going on at the moment. Sliggy's found a new place to stream. Ludwig's moved back to Twitch, and Sliggy's moved over to SOOP. These are huge
Wait,
moves
is
happening.
SOOP a streaming service?
Oh yeah.
That's why you can't stream it on Twitch or YouTube.
What the
Stop
fuck
doing,
is
like,
SOOP?
Face cam there.
Wait, actually, what the fuck
It's,
is SOOP?
It's Africa TV. Just changed
Africa?
them.
Oh, like
Is
a
it
Korean
actually?
company?
No, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Why
this
is it
the
in-
same
wait,
Thai
Thai
company?
What isn't it in Thai? I just opened it and it's in a language I don't
Yeah, that's-
understand, but
that's the
GeoGuessr
European
knowledge
one.
tells me it's Thai.
That's the European one, and then there's so there's
Why-
like an
why is it
EN
in
and a
Thai
Korean.
if it's
Famously in
European?
Europe, we speak a lot of Thai.
No, go to the Korean. There's a Korean website that's similar.
SOOPlive.com?
.cr,
So
maybe.
Africa's rebranded to SOOP, and they're trying to
Live
broaden
dots.
out beyond Korean.
You mean
viewers.
KR? What the fuck is CR?
Yeah.
Are you saying
The
I
same
can't
thing
show
happens
this
with
on
Africa.
sorry,
stream?
like KR.
What? Sorry, Kurt.
You're saying I can't show this on stream? Like we'll get in trouble?
No, you can. Just,
Nah, you'll be
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
You
God,
can show it, but
what
the
does
point being
SOOP
that you're not
stand
allowed
for?
to co-stream the tournament on a different platform.
Got it.
Yes, yeah, you're not allowed to live stream it. Like I can't like me and Team V are just doing webcams only. It's on YouTube and Twitch. Live stream has to be on SOOP, like showing the game.
Yeah. So anyway, the point of this being is that while there are some cool games, I mean, it started with Sentinels Gen.G. We're not going to recap all of these games, but I thought it was worth taking a look at this one. We've had a number of like tier 3 teams that have beaten tier 1 teams over the course of this. I mean, we just looked at it as well. Talon lost to Made in Thailand, so a Thai team beat the other tier 1 Thai team. But this one, I don't think. This one, I was watching the game. By the way, SOOP, you can't watch VODs until the stream has ended. So I had to watch on a YouTube channel that had made the like compilation videos that was in 480p to watch NRG lose this morning. But it reminded me very much of NRG's game against Billy Billy. It's well worth a watch actually, if you find the VOD.
FNS, are you okay?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. The sunset doesn't bother me too much because obviously the map's going out.
Yeah.
But the Pearl is a bit of a worry.
They were getting rolled early on. That first half was really quite something.
Yeah.
I do think there's also a point of it. Like this is like a rapid lo-fi's champs. You know, like this is their big game against a big team. Like they are going to care. They are going to want to win. Whereas NRG are probably just like, you know, who gives a fuck? We're on SOOP. You know.
I think the reason that I found this game interesting, though, is because this... Can you even call it this core anymore? I don't think you can. But finesse-led teams have historically been upset by some squads that you just don't expect them to get upset by. And that's not even the Billy Billy one. They used to lose to Xerxia quite a lot as well when it was, you know, back in...
First game of every international, they lost to some random ass
pretty
team.
much.
It was the narrative.
And I think one of the reasons for that is because the group of players, and I think they have a similar mentality, which is why I'm considering them a little bit of a follow-on of the core, is that they have this mentality of like making really good assumptions about what their opponent is going to do that allow them to skip quite a lot of steps and beat really good teams. And then I think in games like this, their opponents just like disrespect smokes, swing at wild timings, and they're like, the assumptions that they've made of, I use this piece of utility, they're not going to scale, they're not going to push the smoke, etc. They just get completely rocked by them because they're like, the way in which their opponents are expected to play, they subvert it completely and they get dominated in some of these games. You watch NRG on defense in this game, they threw every piece of utility at them on defense whilst running backwards, allowed them to plant, and then they have nothing for retake. But they never fought them at any point either. So the other team was just grouping up as 5, running them down, getting the plant, and then winning the post plants. It was bizarre to watch.
They had some nice Phoenix stuff. Like they actually had some, like the other team had some pretty nice Phoenix stuff. I was looking at the Phoenix thinking like, oh, this is pretty strong. Cause like they would do like wall through walls that would then cut it off, and then the wall lasts for like 8 seconds, and then it was like Mada sends it, but then no one else wants to send it through the wall as well, which is probably something that they need to work on. But yeah, they have some really cool stuff, to be honest. I like the Phoenix look great, but I do think a big thing worth mentioning is they won 1 out of 6 pistols. So there is a massive issue with this game where upsets are very possible because of the snowballing and the double economy in this game. So it's a bad result, but I'm not like worried about it. Also, I do think the Phoenix stuff was like so good that I think other teams could look into the Phoenix and be like, hold up, maybe this is more viable than we thought.
They did a great round. Can't remember exactly which one it was, where they take most of their team through art, and then they Phoenix ult through double doors to like push the doubles door player towards art. And that's an old default like play that NRG themselves used to run a lot 2 years back, where they used to dog all the way through and then collect the player over towards art. It's a really cool idea, but it was...
Yeah, they used to have like the Viper smoke to block vision, right?
Yeah,
and then go all the way through. Yeah. No, they had some cool stuff. I think Phoenix is kind of legit when I watch this, because the flood potential on defense now is a lot higher than people think. Like a set wall with a flash, you can play like close, but then I think you can flood better just because you can have so many people close, like flood in a little bit, get some kills, and then back out again. I think the Phoenix...
Phoenix is actually kind of insane. Like,
yeah, Phoenix is good.
I think he has the best flash in the game. Like, I think it is the hardest flash to turn. And, like, getting another after 2 kills is kind of sick. Like, I actually see people trying him out. Like, maybe he's not the best agent in the world, but I really think he's somewhat viable now.
God, I can't wait for someone on Fracture to just run Phoenix, get 4 ult orbs every single round, just absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, he's like one of
and just
2
go
agents
crazy.
that is a 6 orb ult still. That's fucking ridiculous. Like,
And the ult's legit. Like, that's
It's a
the
good
thing.
ult.
It's a really good ult. So-
literally just free entry into a site.
But yeah, in terms of like bailing out NRG here a little bit, Haven looked really good. Pearl, they were definitely not the better team. And then Sunset, they were pretty lost on, but I think the map's going out and they probably aren't pracking it too much. And 1 out of 6 pistols.
Sure. And I will say, I think this was also God's will that they lost this game. Because, Kurt, if you could bring up the bracket for this tournament, please. If you take a look at their GSL group, they're in Group B here. And there's a certain matchup that I just believe needed to happen, which this loss now allows. They have a rematch against Billy Gaming.
NRG against Billy Gaming. And I'm telling you what, Billy are not a bad team either. NRG normally pick themselves back up, right? If you're looking at like the history of these kind of teams, they normally don't.
That's what everyone said the second time they played against Billy at Gems.
That is true.
Exactly. Here we go again. I mean, it's just gonna be fun. It's an off-season tournament. We've seen a lot of weird results in these off-season tournaments, but God, the script writes itself, and you can all tune into Soup to watch it.
We
Guys,
love
make sure you
Soup
subscribe
here.
to Sliggy on Soup.
Yeah. Why didn't you stream? Why don't you have an account, TMV? You could have been co-streaming on Soup.
I just literally can't be fucking asked. This is how little I think of Soup. Sorry, Soup.
Damn, dude.
I just can't be bothered.
I did have to I had to make it sure that no one can chat. It's criminal out there. There is some mad stuff. There is some mad stuff. Yeah.
You don't want to know. And yesterday someone was like, "Oh, Sean Gaz is trying to like set up on Soup," and like people just kept sending me like a comment or two of like, "Sean's really struggling to set this up on Soup, like his own little Soup stream." So I don't know what happened to Sean, but I think that put me off as well.
Well, I was thinking, I was thinking we could maybe talk some of the other off-season tournaments, but I think we've got to address the Cloud9 Rossy stuff. But first of all, I want to hit our second sponsor for the show, right? I said earlier that we're sponsored by Factor and Manscaped today, so I wanted to talk to you about manscaped.com. They have got, listen, if you don't have you'd have to get onto it fairly quickly, to be honest with you, but if you don't have Christmas presents and you've got somebody in your life, I was going to say a man in your life, but I'm going to be honest with you, even though a lot of their marketing is based around men, these my wife really likes these products. So don't. If you've got somebody who wouldn't mind being given a Manscaped product who doesn't identify as a man, then I would say go for that as well. But you can use code VALOCHAT20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. One of the products that they're asking us to promote is this Chairman Pro, which is a very nice product. It works extremely well, very smooth shaver with a couple of different options. One to be able to get all of the hairs gone and one to be able to leave you with a little bit of stubble. This one designed for use on your face, although you could use it in other places if you wanted to. But if you wanted to use it to shave your genitalia, then I would recommend using some of their other products, actually, because they do specify in that. You got something wrong with that, TMV?
No, just.
Do you think it's not important for people to
I just
shave their genitalia?
don't know if they would have
want to?
wanted you to say genitalia. Just that word is just
No?
kind of. I don't
Is
know.
it too medical? All right, so instead, I'll use what the kids are saying, cut the hair off your cock and balls. Is that better?
I think genuinely cock and balls provides less of a reaction for me than genitalia. There's something
right.
very clinical about it.
Well, then I apologize for that. And TMV, if you want your cock and balls to be absolutely hair-free, then you can use some of Manscaped's other products. Now, that one's for the face. So, you know, they've got a range of different things going on. And like I said, you can use ValoChat20 at the checkout for 20% off and free shipping from manscaped.com. All right, let's get on to big drama from this week, shall we? Cloud9, they cut Rossy for Mitch, and the world exploded. Everybody's trying to do an interview with Rossy, and then Imi, and then Noxy, and so we actually have so much information about this. We've got like literally hours of footage of what went down beat by beat inside the Cloud9 camp.
What's that COD YouTuber guy's name who's like Drama Monday Keemstar dude?
Yeah, Keemstar.
No, the Valorant one. Who's a COD YouTuber? Who's Valorant Keemstar?
Oh, Tactical Rab.
Yeah, he's got to be having a fucking great week.
Oh, he's loving it.
He's having a great week.
That's
Like,
what
that
he
guy's
lives
great.
for.
That guy's good though. He's crazy consistent.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, that's why I know his name.
Rab's great. He does an F1 podcast as well, or like he does the same kind of recap for F1 and for something else as well. He does a crap ton of stuff. We should get him on the show sometime. What's your take on the drama?
I want to start off by kind of providing some context. So, Ravishing Ravish did an interview with Ross, an exclusive interview on the drama, which I felt like was the most insightful piece of media put out on this, because the community is, first of all, getting up in arms about this. I think the biggest complaints are a couplefold. First of all, people are mad because it is 2 months before the season starts, not even, a little less than 2 months now, and they're saying it puts Rossy in a position where he's highly unlikely to get signed to a tier 1, tier 2 team for next year and fucks him over individually. People are hearkening back to previous Cloud9 managerial decisions that weren't the best, cutting players directly before events, plus Vanity, minus Vanity, plus all of their players, minus all of their players. And people have gotten really pissy as a result. But I think the biggest thing is that this was, at least what the players are saying, and also what Rossy said in the interview he did, was that this was a team decision, that the team felt like he was not working out, that like the vibe wasn't there, whatever all of that means. And in my opinion, at the end of the day, that like, if you are a manager and your team, the majority of your team is saying that they do not want to play with someone, I don't think you have any choice but to listen, and making the decision to cut him now instead of waiting till like the new year or waiting till kickoff at the end of the day is probably what is best for the team. I'm not saying that the players or the coaches or whoever are right to make that decision. We don't know the full story of what happened behind the scenes. But I think it is pretty cut and dry that it's like, if a majority of your players don't want to play with someone, I don't think you have much of a choice but to cut them. And that's where I'm a little surprised by like the uproar specifically at C9 management.
I mean, the uproar is just that he played so good, right? he had an insane tournament where he was IGLing. That's like the issue, because it's like, even when we were doing the too early predictions, I'm like, damn, like the C9 team can actually like do a lot. It actually gave me so much faith in this team that they actually might be able to like actually make one of these events that they've kind of been close to doing. So I think that's like the main thing. Is just, I don't know. I feel like if I was on the team, you would try everything to keep him on.
Personally, when I've listened to a lot of the media coming out of this, I listened to Imi and I listened to Rossy's interviews after too. It seems like a bit of a failure of emotional maturity and leadership somewhat across the board, I would say, but nothing that's not really, really standard in esports. Like, I'm not saying that this is unusual in any way, but when you have young people, they often miss a step in terms of what it takes to be an effective, like, leader in a certain role. So if you take Rossy's point of view, for example, he's in interviews very self-aware of issues that he's had like a year back of being like tilting or shutting down or not talking or stuff like that. But he does seem extremely unaware of the fact that actually in order to have a really good working environment, you have to engage with people outside of the game too. And if you want to be an IGL and a leader, you actually have to demonstrate some level of emotional intelligence, out of game leadership, right? Yeah, you actually have to develop rapport and develop bonds with other people that are going to allow you to bring them into the fold and get them involved in your system. You literally cannot, like, maybe in a theoretical world you would want it to work like this, but you can't just clock in and go like, hey guys, this is the way that I want to run the team. All right, good doing business with you. All right, goodbye. Like, that's not how it works in sports environments. And I think that there's been a failure there from his point of view, but also probably a failure from Imi's point of view as well, of allowing the individual players to all be talking with each other and create this, foster this culture of needing him to go without addressing it earlier on before it could boil over into something. But like you said, at the end of the day, though, Imi's got to make a decision. Do I try to fix it? Or do I try to just cut my losses and deal with somebody else that they do want to play with? And that's a valid decision once it's got to that point, to go for Mitch instead.
Yeah, people are really quick in esports to, when a player gets cut or something like that happens, to instantly be like, oh, this team is so cliquey. What's wrong with them? Why would they do that? Like, it's you can't just nepo your friends and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think having a good team environment is one of the biggest factors in being a successful team. And if the players aren't comfortable with someone, if they don't trust them out of game, if they're not friends out of game, those types of things. I'm not saying an entire team has to be besties, but those things are really important. And you listen to that interview Ravish did with Rossy. Rossy was saying he was the only player not living in the team house. He gives an example of the day he was cut, where he was there in the morning, did the gym with the people, didn't really talk to anyone, did like their morning scrim, and then after that was done, just like went back to his house and then came back. It just seems like he didn't really develop a rapport with the team. And
but sorry, can I just jump in as well?
Sure.
That's not just on Rossy, by the way. Like,
no,
that's why a lot of teams have these people and activities to try to get people to bond together. I mean, I know that Apex, the GM for Apex, was just talking on Reddit about some of the things they're doing to try to get Floor really integrated with the team. And with other organizations like Carmen Corps, for example, last year, they were doing vlogs where they were showcasing how they took Fnatic's, I can't remember the role that they say that the guy has, but essentially just like the performance coach, and making sure that they all have exercises, have debriefs, have a lot of interpersonal interactions to be able to develop that kind of system. And that's not all just supposed to be on the new guy coming into the team to do it all themselves. It sounds to me like a bit of a structural failure.
Yeah, and I think Mimi, you pointed to something that you could point to as like that kind of overall culture structural failure of like, if you're going to have 4 people on the team live in one house and one guy isn't,
doesn't he live with them? Yeah.
Maybe that, could cause a problem, particularly if he's the guy who's going to be leading them and telling them what to do. Like that to me, it seems like, is that not potentially going to cause issues? And I think, you can come back to like, probably from all the way to the trialing process of Rossy, right? Of like, maybe not, of not like fully perhaps understanding of where this might go and decisions like that with the team house that eventually lead to, a situation where like it gets to a point where probably cutting him is the right choice, for team results, because otherwise, it might get very, very messy, which would have been fun to see, for being real.
Not for the C9 players. I mean, that's what
not for the C9 players, of course.
Imi said, I know what that feels like when you get shit hitting the fan like midway late on in the season. So I decided to just cut the rot early on. Yeah. Like, they already know what it feels like, and it's crap.
I want to pull back
funny,
a little.
You're right.
Funny from the outside.
Yeah, I want to pull back a little bit to the community reaction as well, because I've seen a really consistent sentiment, which is people taking this opportunity to just like absolutely clown on Zeppa and basically advocate that he needs to lose his job, which frankly I think is fucking ridiculous. These people are like the pinnacle of like Stats Stevens. Look at his VLR rating. It's not up to their standards. why would you cut Rossy, who had a 1.2 VLR rating, when you could cut Zeppa, who had a 0.8? If you watch any of their games throughout the last 2 years, you can see why he's been a player on this team for so long. He is, in my opinion, I think a top 3, probably Flash Initiator player in Americas. I think he has excellent. Is top 3 crazy? Wait, let me think.
That sounds crazy. I just
Top
want to
5. Top 5.
that sounds crazy.
Top 5, I think, is very reasonable. I think he's a very good Flash Initiator
you
player.
You keep going. I've got to think about that more.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. I just threw out a number. But I think he's a very good Flash Initiator player. And I also think it's clear when you watch him on stage interacting with other players that it seems like he is an important member of the team in terms of building people up and helping with some of the leadership stuff. You watched last year and saw his relationship with Oxy and things like that, and how well he set up Oxy in game and kind of showed that out of game too, building the guy up. I'm really of the opinion that the Zeppa hate is unfounded, and clearly he is on the team for a reason and has some massive impact behind the scenes for C9 to have wanted to keep him for as long as he did. It's very uncommon to keep a player that long in esports. So I that's my big thing, that I think the Zeppa slander is fucking stupid.
I think it just comes with time, that stuff. When someone's been in a team for so long, Yampy kind of had the same thing, where it's you've been in a team for so long and maybe you're doing the right stuff, you're trying to do everything for the team, but then at one point it's well, they haven't had success with you, and it doesn't mean you're a bad player. It's just, I think that's just because you don't get that in esports, people are well, this is the one constant throughout. But I think that's why people jump to that I guess theory.
I was just going back through I rating it based on last year, rather than on this year. I was just going back through the Flash Initiators in Americas. Not the highest competition in that role, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, you could make an argument that he's top 5. I think even that would be a bit of a stretch, but
top 3 was crazy. I'll stand.
There's a lot of
that.
IGLs, and a lot of underperforming players in the Flash Initiator role in Americas, actually. Seeming to indicate that it's a bit tough to have that level of impact there.
In that exit interview Rossy gave as well, he had good things to say about Zeppa, and very specifically said that he's not in a position where he wants people to go and witch hunt the player. So maybe listen to the guy who lost his job instead of going out and starting your own witch hunt and being an asshole.
I do think that the org didn't help though with their statement.
Oh no, they definitely didn't.
Because the org statement is oh, by the way, guys, the players, make sure
Oh, yeah,
in bold letters, the players and coaches wanted this. Make sure you blame them for anything of this decision. This was them. The players and coaches informed us management, us innocent management, and maybe they are somewhat innocent, but in terms of creating a witch hunt, by putting out a statement that says the players and coaches made this decision.
I think it's important to have that level of transparency, but I think this level of transparency completely ignores those structural issues that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Cloud9 are not one of those teams that have invested really heavily, as far as I'm aware, into a lot of the developing of the interpersonal dynamics that we've seen from other organizations like I was talking about with Fnatic, or I was talking about with Loud, who have their performance coach, or Carmen Core, who have theirs as well. This kind of stuff I haven't seen out of the Cloud9 camp. Maybe it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but they've definitely been an org that's had a lot of really unusual, in, out.
Oh, it's really weird.
Mitch is coming back in for the 14th time.
No, yeah, it's really weird. I feel like C9 and EG just take turns of who's the villain of Americas. Just it's us this year, and then go on C9. You can have this year, and it's back to EG next year. Yeah. Crazy.
What do you think about Mitch though? If Rossy had never been on the team and they just played with Mitch, which they did in one of the off-season tournaments, did they win, or did they just do quite well?
Yeah, they
Mitch
qualified. It was the qualifier.
Right.
Red Bull.
I would still feel pretty good about this team.
I think Mitch was a pretty good tier 2 IGL. Anytime I watched him play last year, because obviously Mitch is one of those names that's oh, I remember Mitch, and then you see him in tier 2 and he's doing pretty well. It's oh yeah, he looks pretty good. So yeah, I don't think I would have minded. I think the real problem that Cloud9 have here is that Rossy did so well in that Red Bull tournament that it just makes it look like a bunch of snakes have ganged up on their best player and got rid of him. That's just kind of with the statement and the way it's all played out. That's the way it looks like.
Rossy actually, by the way, did the best PR that he could have possibly done by acting extremely kind about everything, that kind of thing. But then he just drops in the one line One of the players did say, like, I IGL just for myself to make myself look good, but like the other guys didn't really agree with that. Like that kind of like that. That's so good, man. He's like he comes across as the good guy because he's got so much good stuff to say about everybody else, and then he just drops in the like little facts like that.
He played the
Make it
PR
seem jealous.
so well. You listen to that interview with Ravish, and he did. I'm not gonna lie. Like, even if it's true, even if it's not true, just credit to him for getting the community sentiment on his side and just being so. He handled it so well, and he's going to set himself up in a position where I think it's not impossible that we see him on another team. He also discussed in that interview that he has not gotten trials yet, but he's gotten like emails and communication with GMs from tier 1 teams and some tier 2 teams. He said in regions that are not America's. So there's a likelihood that we still get to see him competing next year, which I really hope we get to see, because even if it wasn't working out with C9, he is an absolutely excellent player who deserves to be playing in VCT, as he proved in that Red Bull Homegrown event.
Yep. Okay, let's. Are we all finished with the drama? Big drama.
Yeah.
Completed.
Is Rossy going to
Wonderful.
Apex?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, so Kurt
Yeah,
asks,
Apex
is Rossy going
Legends.
to-
He's a Valkyrie player.
Apex has been hinting that they've got an Americas player as their final, but my understanding was they were looking towards like Nismo or Brock originally. I think Nismo was the one that was most rumored, but maybe they picked up Rossy instead.
wasn't it Odorous joining, and it was their assistant coach, and that was like their thing for Americas.
Is it though, or was that just? I thought that was them. I thought that was unrelated
Okay, maybe.
because they still have an import slot to be able to use.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they do.
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood then, and maybe they were baiting, and it was actually for the Odorous announcement. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird that they're the only team that hasn't announced the 5th, and we're like a month away from the season.
Yeah, it's
beginning.
so close. Literally exactly a month, right? Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some of the other tournaments then that have been happening. So we probably should have talked about this last week, but we didn't have an episode. But Radiant Asia, PaperX won this tournament. Pretty big one as well, actually. So what are some big takeaways from this? DFM, I think, had one of the most interesting runs, if we want to start there.
Yeah. Where the fuck did we put DFM in that tier list? In
Right,
fact,
no,
Sliggy,
no,
when I was
don't-
correcting this tier list.
don't even
Oh, here we
start
go.
me
Here
in
we
this.
go. Here we go. DFM.
Here we go. Go on.
Do you think they were good?
Of course they were good. Yeah.
But what have you got against me putting them slightly higher in a
Oh,
fucking
oh,
tier list?
oh,
Up a
oh,
tier
like-
because they played fucking
No,
well.
I was calling, to be fair, I was calling you a fraud because I was like, there's no way this guy's put it 2 above. And then I had to go back to the evidence. And I didn't realize, because even when we were moving them down, because we were talking about, like I said, the DFM should be up at least in C. And then Sideshow, dude, he 1v3 does.
Yeah.
If
With
you actually
what?
look before you go down, like you 1v3 does.
Was
You
this
literally just
where-
went, nope.
Yeah, like at
this
the
is-
end of this episode, you were just like, let's just fucking move like
Yeah.
10 teams
Yeah,
down.
I just
We got
moved a bunch of
1v3.
teams from the C tier down into the D tier to make
we
it
were
look
all so
prettier.
tired. The episode
But I mean-
lasted
Yeah,
so
no,
long.
we were
just
3
just
hours in,
gave
he
up.
hit him and does it while we could.
But also, okay, can you bring that back up for a moment though? Because if these teams like Zeta, DFM, Liquid, etc., were just in the bottom of the C tier instead, how does that satisfy? Like the order of the teams is still exactly the same.
Yeah.
All I
but
did
then
It
was
just looks
chunk
better.
them down.
Because
a
then,
bit.
right,
but
you watch
instead-
this tournament, are DFM a D tier team?
Okay, but are they a bottom
Oh,
C
well,
tier?
you're fucking wrong then, aren't you?
But all it is ranking them compared to
No,
other
yeah,
teams.
it just means
No, it's
instead to
not.
type C tier instead
Tiers
of D
matter,
tier. in
otherwise
my
it's not
chat.
a tier list.
I've
Yeah,
heard enough.
dude.
Let's kick TMV off. Bring Leo back. He can fucking talk about this. Off
We gotta do another
Whatever, man.
rankings. Josh doesn't know
Yeah,
how a
that's
tier
true.
list work. It's not a ranking.
That's true.
I just call
Okay,
it a
come on.
ranking, but we gotta do another tier list.
We got a mistrial.
Look at our faces. Me and TV were just done.
Mistrial.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, this
Kurt,
tier list
That's
was
a man who is
miscarriage of
uncertain of
justice.
what just happened.
Yeah,
Kurt
that's true.
demands a redo. He was the one that kept dragging wolves back down
Oh, we'll
into
get
the
to
C
that.
tier.
Well,
Yeah, we'll
he
talk
needs
about
to
that
answer
later.
for his
I'm
crimes.
ashamed.
Dude, we need to count the hanging chads.
Okay, who did DFM actually beat in this tournament then? So they
They beat Paper X earlier, not in the
Yes.
finals.
On the final, but yeah.
Yeah.
They
but
beat Trace.
Trace
who are the other
and
teams?
RRQ.
Trace and RRQ. Yeah. And
This
EDG
thing is
at the
real.
beginning as well.
They're playing Valorant now. Like,
Oh, they look good.
last year they were not playing Valorant. I don't know what the fuck they were playing. But you
Actually,
watch
they
them
did
and
turn up for one game against T1.
that's
and then
and you
and
know
then
what? I would
continued to
I would never
lose.
Team V, I'd never take that away from them. They had their one game. They said I got mine, and then lost every other game that season.
Incredibly based of them.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like they're playing Valorant properly. Like they're playing off each other. They're using utility. People are shooting back. Like it feels like a reinvention of this team. They're also like kind of doing some like cool stuff. They're like experimenting with device and shit, and like I don't know, playing all this. And also, May's the best player in the world.
Yeah, and dude,
He's
they had a
pretty cracked.
stand-in. That's one of the mad things. They had a stand-in, like Cease or Cess, I think it is how you say it. Like he's a stand-in, and he was clutching everything. And then you got Art. I refer to him as the Odin guy.
Oh my god,
he was
what a
so
legend.
Dude,
The guy
he
is
did not
incredible
use a
with an
normal
Odin.
gun once. I swear
Yeah.
to fucking God. He was either using the Odin or like buying a judge or buying something
He-
stupid. This guy refuses to rifle.
He's the
He's been
perfect
watching the
player.
Sliggy streams.
Yeah, he's the perfect player. He's what I wanted. just 4 years later, we found him.
I feel like we have to talk about EDG though, because that was the first team that DFM beat, I think, in this tournament, like first round of the Swiss stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a massive upset for EDG.
I
Now,
mean, EDG's been having a stinker off season.
They
Yeah,
have,
but
but
they're-
also they've been
they also
trolling some
don't
of their
give a
later
fuck.
tournaments. This tournament though, they were
They
not
did,
trolling.
yeah, they weren't trolling.
They were trying to play properly. They were playing proper comps. I know that everyone in the community is like they were trolling in Chengdu. They were no, they weren't. They were trying. They've said online publicly that they were trying as well. They were getting annoyed at their Chinese fans telling them that they were trolling, and they were like, Chishu was like, I'm not trolling. Like I'm actually trying to win that game. But they did toss some of their later tournaments because they were like forced to play in them or something.
Yeah, I think so. I think they wanted like more of a break a little bit, and then their off season's pretty deep. And I agree that
did
they
this
definitely
last year as well,
tried.
didn't
Yeah, they did, but that's more because they were like burnt out, I think, and like they actually because last year like it was rough for
Yeah,
the
they were just
Chinese
playing
teams.
Last year they played everything as well in
Yeah.
the off season.
But they actually took a break before this event, and then they came back. At least two of them I know took a break, and then I mean you could just tell by their aim. They're just getting outjawed every single time you watch them. Like it was looking like me in the sideshow out there. It was crazy.
Why'd you have to? You're allowed to do self-deprecating humor,
Right,
but you shouldn't
1v
punch
you
down.
1v3 does for the thing. You got your win. I got to take you down again.
The EDG loss, I think you shouldn't read into it too much. I think a lot of people are like, all right, they're just taking their, trying not to get burned out during their off season, etc., etc. Where I'm a bit concerned about EDG is that we noticed a very significant pattern last year where the teams that were taking off season seriously and actually had the mental bandwidth and the energy to commit heavily to that ended up performing really well in the first half of the season. It evened out a little bit later on in the year. You had teams like Leviatan who didn't get started until Christmas Eve. They came online towards the end of the year. But at the start, through Kickoff and honestly through Shanghai as well, it was a lot of those teams that like got out the gates really fast because of their good off-season pre-prep. So does that concern you?
Yeah, a little. Not too much. Like it does a little bit, but I'm not like crazy concerned. I also think a lot of teams looked at the off season last year and were just like, "There's no point in practicing. They're going to change the patch in 2 weeks before we start." So I think a lot of people are just off-put of going all in, and I also think they're in a different spot to other teams. Like other teams are like, we need to get these two players adjusted to, maybe they're a tier 2 team, they need to get them adjusted to LAN or just a team environment or just playing on stage or just new roles. When you look at other teams, EDG are going to keep everything exactly the same. Like they don't need to do any of that. They should be plug and play and it should be fine.
You're telling me they weren't actually trying out Simon or Duelist in the most recent tournament?
It's sadly not.
What do you mean he's not going to be the race player next year?
What I like though is that in their recent game against G Lied, like that it's affected other teams as well. So where now G Lied in their latest game against EDG, like both teams are now trolling. Like if you go on some of G Lied's comps as well, they're just fucking playing.
I didn't even look.
There was
honest.
4 duelists, right, or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In which?
Go-
On the Sunset game?
Yeah, I
so.
think so.
Click it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
you've got Clove, ISO, Raze, Phoenix,
Yeah, they're
Fade.
playing-
Nice.
Triple Duelist.
No, that's just a
Smoke and
2025
Fade.
comp. You guys aren't ready to think about it.
This team's not bad though. I mean, it's kind of nice that we're getting to see with EDG having a bit of either throwing or having a bad like off season, we're actually getting to see some of the other Chinese teams that I think have got a bit of something going on. Like I think Wolves, Billy, and Xylee have actually got some like upward mobility, some upward potential. So it's cool to be able to have a look at those.
But do you want to talk about Wolves? Shall we put Kurt's face on here?
Do we want to talk about Paper X this tournament before we move on to Wolves?
Yeah, they just won it.
Probably
We're like,
should.
nah, fuck
They
it.
just want to, yeah, fuck those guys. They don't deserve a mention.
We do have to talk Paper X here though, because they did also lose to Wolves
Yes.
in the very next tournament. So you have to set up the good in
Yeah.
order to appreciate the bad. This was the tournament from Paper X where I was seeing Sliggy clipping a Sova drone and pogging out about it on Ascent.
Yeah. Dude, because it was the one over towards A main, and like it's A main on Ascent. They go on defense, and like someone always goes close. And I always, every single time I watch Paper X play this map, I see something hover in the smoke, and then he jumps to the other side and he gets killed by someone close. And I'm just like, oh, here we go again. He's gonna jump out. He's gonna hover across. He's gonna get killed by the judge or Bucky, and then they're done for. They actually used a drone. It's Forsaken, right? That plays it on this map, I think. It's like, well, of course, it's just Utah's incredible. But it's like the first time we've seen this for this team. Like, we're pogging out because we haven't seen
Just
it for
as
like
the
3
map
years.
is rotating.
Yeah, just as the maps are rotating, they finally played the meta comp and they're good at it. But it's cool. I think the lessons that they're learning in the off season are gonna be really good. Like info sentinel, Jing's playing a little bit of Killjoy. And just chilling, dude. There's a clip of him when he's on Ascent on site. He's just mid-round and he's just drinking. He's just loving it. It's so different for him. He's just like, I don't have anything to do for like 40 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's cool, and I think it's going to help them when they need to be like, this map has to have an info sentinel, or this map has to have a scan initiator in terms of server, Killjoy, Cypher. They now have people that can do that, and I think as much as it wasn't great at the beginning, I think it was something was playing server and it was criminal.
Yeah.
But now it's now they're kind of, I
They're
don't know.
still playing it on some of the maps.
Yeah, it was bad on this one because they were like 4-1ing and he was the one
Right.
on a server. It just didn't make much sense. But I think they're like learning a lot of the stuff that will help them into a patch that is also made for them. Like I'm
Yeah.
really high up.
This is
on
the
this.
final
you-
nail in a coffin for Ascent. And if Paper Rex are playing the meta comp, it's done.
Yeah, that's true.
My one thing watching this is that I felt like across the series, their defense was kind of atrocious. I feel like they were still doing so many of the like classic Paper Rex mistakes of just like getting bored or getting greedy in a mid round on defense and just going for some stupid shit and then like being down players and like losing out retakes. Because I didn't feel like DFM was doing that much crazy stuff on their attack. They just did a lot of like 4-1s into like these big executes, but they were playing slow enough that they were still punishing PRX for a lot of these like same walk-up mistakes, the same over-aggressive stuff that we've seen from them like 12 million times before. And I mean, they won literally every attack round they played, so it didn't end up mattering. But I don't know. I wasn't joyous watching that.
Yeah, when I watched, I found it hard to talk about Paper X without bringing up the Wolves thing, to be honest, because the contrast was significant.
I mean, let's
And
just
I
talk about
think-
the Wolves thing.
Yeah, let's. But I don't want to begin with the Wolves thing. I feel like I've got to seed the floor and give my time to the true Wolves fan.
Yeah. So Sliggy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't even watch this one, but I'm ready to take the floor.
Well, this just shows that Kurt is a fraud. I mean, that's basically my main takeaway from this all, because Kurt, we spoke about it. I said, put Wolves in A tier, and multiple times Kurt refused during the power ranking tier list. So yeah, Kurt's a fraud. That's what I learned from this game. But Wolves genuinely looked good. Like, they just looked like a good team, to be honest. And in that Paper Rex game, it was never in doubt. Never in doubt. Especially don't look at the scores. Don't look at the fact that it was 13-11. Like, don't look at it. It was never in doubt. Wolves won easy, and I think that this. I mean, genuinely. On one hand, I am actually like pretty excited that they did beat Paper Rex, who were trying. This wasn't like an EDG. Oh, Paper Rex are trolling. Like, that is their split comp. They've run it multiple times. They'll probably run it during the season, and Wolves were able to beat them. And the same on Pearl as well, right? They're running the Jing Phoenix, which they've done many times before. So it wasn't like they were, messing around or whatever. This was a serious game. And I think that, like, it's funny that Leo, we can go back right to the start, was talking about how they kind of need a bit more competitiveness in China, right? That's kind of what maybe the region is lacking. Hopefully, this is a good sign that, you know, maybe there could be some teams like a Wolves, like you're saying with G-Lai, or because FPX, I don't know if I fully trust them, but, you know, some of these other teams can actually come up and, you know, you can end up with a season where EDG can't just fucking, you know, coast through and, you know, do whatever the fuck they want and win anyway.
Yeah, I think the thing that excites me about Wolves too is they had plenty of rounds in this game against PaperX where they actually just outskilled the round. There were just situations on split where they're walking, you know, one of the PaperX players swings a ramp at the beginning of the round, Wolves player deletes them. And then another duel happens in mid, and a Wolves player deletes them over there. Like, the strength of this Wolves roster is partly that the player quality is really, really high. Their fragging power is super good. They've got to balance, I think, some of the great ideas that they've got. Like, for example, if you want to have a look at that split map. Oh, what round are we in here? Round 4? Okay,
Give me a round. I got you.
Give you a round? Okay, so where's a crazy one, actually? Round 17 is a funny one, actually. That's a great one. So what I'm showcasing with this round a little bit is that Wolves actually had some really nice ideas too that they threw into stuff. So they use a Razorvine lineup to land into B Heaven on split that it basically coats the entire floor, and then they send a Paranoia through from B main and they completely collapse on this player in B Heaven. But sometimes they also just end up overheating, and they have Spring in particular, I think, is a cracked player who can occasionally just go way too far. And I think that's going to be one of the things that they really have to work on, is getting that kind of stuff tuned in properly. But they've got a good team here that I think, especially when you consider the quality of players they're going to go up against when they get to international events. I mean, look at that. The dog Razorvine. Like, it's so difficult to be able to get
The
through.
Razorvine looks so silly there.
It just coats the whole of B Heaven as well from this lineup.
They throw it like all the way through the top roof.
Yeah, through the
That's
top
cool.
roof. It
That's so
lands
cool.
into B Heaven. They dog, they Paranoia as you're like either trapped in the Razorvine or running away from it. But one of the things that I was noticing was Wolves were they throw that cool idea out on a round where it doesn't really matter that much. It's like an anti-eco. Sometimes they time it perfectly so that it broke PaperX's economy. There's like a lot of these small things that they could tune up, and they have a really good base, and they're clearly very creative. I think there's a lot of growth room, basically, for this Wolves team, where I'm looking at them and I'm like, I can see what you got, and I think you can get a lot better. I'm liking it. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
I'm gonna be honest. It's been so long. You miss a week of Plat Chat, and it's like I can't really remember that much from the game. To be honest, I didn't take notes like you. All I know is that I felt good.
Yeah. I mean, if you want another round, you could just play round 24 on split. It's a ridiculous round. It was like in the mud Valorant as well. So, but I think China's going to be competitive this year. I think there's going to be
You're the fucking one that put half their teams in the F tier. This is what I don't
No,
get.
but I think the teams that he put down there are kind of fine. Like, because we're talking about like what Billy, Trace, EDG, FPX, and now
It's
Wolves at the
F
top.
for fine tier.
I think XLG to belong in there as well. But yeah, I think there's
Yeah,
like a top 5 in China that's actually going to be competitive. But what that means is if you tune into China's regular season, you're going to see a lot of crap. But if you only tune into the international events, you're going to think the region's like on the
region's
same
good,
par as
yeah.
basically everybody else. So I think for the majority of our viewers, for the majority of the Valorant viewers, they're gonna experience good Chinese Valorant this year. If they weren't already last year.
Yeah, I mean, they did win champs.
Yeah, of course, of course. But
I just always think it's funny people talk about China still like it's, you know, like they've got no hope. I know they only had one serious team. Well, FPX was still pretty good for most of last year, but they did win champs. So, you know, they do technically have the best team in the world.
yeah, I mean, look at the way that this round ends, by the way. We've got a 2v2 player, 41 HP versus 42 HP, something trying to clutch it out with an op. I'm setting the classic at the end. And something
Awesome.
misses the shot.
It does bring a lot of hope for the CN region that their world champion team is getting fucking dunked on by Humegalols in the off season.
Please don't call
You're-
Wolves Humegalols ever again, Mimi. Thank you.
Number one Wolves defender,
Yeah,
Kurt.
Wolves defender.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
regain
a
my friendship
comfort.
with TMV.
Yeah.
Also, who are the Omega lols? Are you saying DFM are the Omega lols?
I guess.
Crazy.
Oh.
I was
You're
being
making
hyperbolic.
Sideshow's
many
been down
enemies.
that road with Japanese Valorant.
Wait, Japan. I love you. I love you, Japan. Konnichiwa. I don't know how to
Crazy
say I
effort.
love
Is
you
that-
in Japanese. Je t'aime, Japon. They love. Next topic, please, Josh.
Oh, do you want to talk about Spotlight, Mimi? You were
Sure.
casting
I
Spotlight.
can talk about Spotlight. Spotlight was pretty. I think it was pretty cool. I think.
Okay, next topic.
Okay.
Cool.
Classic women hating again from Sideshow.
What do you mean? No, it's a little jest, TMV. We're going to give G2 Gozen 30 minutes starting now.
Okay, great. 30 whole minutes. Yeah, I love women, so I'm gonna talk about this tournament. I actually thought it was a pretty sick tournament. For those that aren't in the know, it was like 2 or 3 VCT players paired up with 2 or 3 players from a GC team, either of the same org, or there was a couple collabs. G2 Gozen, they played in the EMEA one, second place, came back with a slightly different roster, and they won this one. But it was pretty sick. I think the biggest takeaway from this tournament was the GC players held their own, or actually did pretty well in some cases, which I think was the thing that people were probably worried about, and what I was really happy to see. I think some big takeaways. First of all, like Alexis's utility for Oxy was kind of unreal. She did a really, really good job and was doing a lot of the calling for that team, for C9SR, who made the finals. In terms of like individuals, Dodonut had a great tournament. So too did Sarah, just in terms of fragging. And you had a lot of big clutch moments in the finals from some of the G2 Gozen girls as well. And yeah, it was just it was a pretty cool little tournament. We got to see Jojimo playing on G2, obviously not their VCT roster, but got to see him for the first time. He subbed in for just the finals, because Jonah P had to go and deal with a family emergency. And holy shit, Jojimo is good. I forgot how fucking good this guy is at Raze. It's actually like unfathomable, the things he was doing.
Just to hop on one of your earlier points, right? I when we were previewing this tournament earlier, I said that in the EMEA one, the top 16 players by rating were not game changers players for EMEA. In this one, 7 out of the top 16 players were game changers players in Americas. So
Which
it was
is like 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, basically, right? Yeah. So they were absolutely holding their own, and we were getting really big, like, fun, good performances out of players. I mean, even SRN, who's actually not even rated that highly, I was enjoying watching her just run around demolishing people on the attack op. Yeah, it was a fun tournament to showcase that the gap is not as large, I think, as would otherwise have been assumed.
Yeah, I saw one clip from this event and that was it. I literally saw the moose defuse. And that
Oh,
was
I
it.
think we have to pull up the one clip, Kurt,
that the
if
one
you
clip?
could. Yeah, this is the one clip.
Yeah,
Context.
this is what I saw.
Oh, they won the game. It's 12-11. He has plenty of time to defuse. It's going to be awesome. They're playing the music. They're playing the sounds. The bomb just went off. The bomb went off.
And ESIC investigates Moose, who had money on the game. And
What actually happened? It was a bug of his PC, right?
So the admins reviewed. So they went back, took 20 minutes. He was like, it's a computer glitch. It's a computer glitch. It's not my fault. What happened? Well, I actually don't know if he said that. That's just what I'm assuming happened. And the admins went back and reviewed. I assume they have some kind of keylogger or something. He pressed his Windows key.
Oh, okay.
And pressing the Windows key somehow, if you watch the replay, watch here. So he's diffusing. You see the escape menu comes up. He's like half a second to defuse. Escape menu comes up. He goes into the desktop, tabs back in, and then watch. He's tapping 4, and it's bugging. It's not letting him hold it. So something about him pressing his Windows key fucked up the keyboard, and it was like not holding the defuse down.
That's incredible.
And then the bomb went off.
they-
They reviewed and they said it was on him. Most pro players, because he clicked the Windows key, according to what I assume is a keylogger.
but when he tabs back in, he would get the second half.
Probably.
But it was
Wasn't
his
a bug.
fault for initiating the Like, I guess
He was
point
bug
is-
abusing.
That's crazy. They actually had to replay it. I thought he would just because
They
he
didn't
tapped in.
replay
Right?
it. They
He
just
didn't tab back in fast enough, though. If he had tabbed back in half a second earlier, then he could have waited out
his
the bug.
epic
I mean, yeah,
gamer
but
alt tab skills were not good enough. Is the
That's
problem.
crazy.
But yeah, I don't know if that was the perfect call, but they played out overtime. C9 and SR won it in 2 more rounds. It ended up not being a big deal, but an absolutely fucking hysterical clip that he managed to almost lose that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because I took a week off and this is what I missed, and I just like, oh, let's check in on Valorant. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what did I miss? I also had to, dude. I took like 7 days off streaming. I had 2 people message me on Twitter to be like, are you okay? We haven't seen you online. That's how you know you're like criminally online when you take like 1 week off, and everyone's like, mate, you're right.
Did you go outside?
Once, maybe twice.
That's absurd.
You got to get outside to get back to England. So yeah, that was at least once.
Right,
By the
I see.
way, the other thing that was kind of funny about this tournament is obviously, for those that don't know, Alexis and Moose are like a couple, and they were playing together for this tournament. So it was the first ever like e-dater duo playing in person at a tournament. And I thought it was hilarious. The other funny thing is the round that he should have won by winning the defuse. I think it was like a 2v4. It was him and Alexis. They win the 2v4 together, and it's like, oh my god, that's so cute. The E-Dater couple won together to win the game and go to the finals. And then he doesn't fucking defuse.
That's a red flag.
True.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Get rid of that.
Can't
man.
wait for the Reddit post of our relationship advice, and it's just Alexis. My boyfriend didn't said he diffused, and he didn't.
Very good.
Cool tournament is my conclusion. And GC players, not that far off. There's some pretty good players.
One of the
There's
things,
good players on both sides.
one of I love that. Doing an anti-Trump impression is a very funny bit. I like that. They're sending their best people.
And the thing is, these women, they're sending some of their best players over to the Spotlight Series, folks. We love them so much.
It's a great bit.
Those beautiful women, almost as beautiful as my first wife, Ivana. I don't like her anywhere near as much as Melania.
One thing that Kurt was mentioning when we were putting this topic in here was that he was enjoying seeing Demon One, like happy.
Oh my god, he was
like,
so good.
and like, you know, engaging in a positive way with the Valorant community and looking like he's excited to be back, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it just generally
Okay.
seemed like he was in a good mood, and it seemed like the vibes of the GC players kind of rubbed off on the Americas players as well. Not to say the Americas have bad vibes, but the GC players are very like outgoing and interactive, and it seemed to be more so in this event.
That's something like production always talks about. Like when they're doing production stuff with like the game changer teams, they're just like everyone's like hyping everyone up, and they do like sick
The
content.
GC
whereas,
players
like,
are always happy to be there. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say any names, but a lot of the not just Americans, a lot of the VCT players are like, you're the old ball and chain for making me come and take my picture for one day ahead of a tournament when I get paid $10,000 a month.
Yeah, waking up at 7 a.m. to do a content shoot is actually not reasonable. It's torture according
Yes.
to the United Nations. That does bring us on though to Demo, and I think announced in a. I say announced. I'm not sure whether this is like 100% confirmed or whatever. But he was talking in a press conference at Spotlight about roles for Leviatan. Now, I didn't see the original source of this. I just saw the fact that it was tweeted out by Nando Show, which is me when I go for a cheeky chicken. And they said in a press conference before Spotlight Americas, Demo One stated that Tex will be the team's duelist and King will return to Flex, with Demo One being controller. That puts Natank onto Sentinel, with Com staying on Initiator, which that's not what I was expecting at all. I don't think any of us had even discussed that when we were talking about this team.
What if
No.
this is goated? Is my opinion. I'm kind of pilled of like star duelist player, like incredible shooter, being on a role like Sentinel or controller or whatever, where they can kind of just like be a side anchor and do their thing and frag out and do whatever, and not have the responsibility of having to play dive and always be going for a set play and always be going forward and have to like do so much on the attacking side. I always think back to like Ye Chamber era when Victor was just like a sacrificial lamb and Ye just farmed everyone because he could be second in and he could anchor sites and have a lot more freedom. And I'm actually kind of in favor of that kind of thing, especially for a player like Demon One that's played a lot of the controller before for EG, that even when he did play duelist, he was never the guy picking up dive. It was almost always Jaw playing on the raise. He was the guy who was going for this like crazy execute stuff, and Demon One was allowed to play kind of more of a second, third entry role. So I don't know, I feel like it just kind of makes sense to allow him to have that comfort again and just let Tex go in and run around and whatever.
I think the only thing that doesn't make sense is no tank on Sentinel. Really.
Does this harm you on the tank stocks, TMV, for best player on Lev?
You think the tank is going to be the best
Shut
player
up!
on Lev? Wait, no. No.
Yes, me.
That's crazy. No.
Silencing women, crazy Tory behavior.
Yeah, I was allowed to speak during the Spotlight series section, but not during this one.
To answer your question, we'll move past that. I have to well, I'm not gonna fucking change now, am I? I might as well just stick with it. I mean, this
You're
is the
allowed
thing.
to change your mind.
No, yeah, but
There's
that
nothing
wouldn't be
wrong
fun.
with being wrong.
Well, yeah, okay. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. Well, if I'm wrong, then I'll just be wrong, and there'll be nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Viewers are excited
What
about
the-
former streamer Tory Man
Former
Valorant
streamer.
returning to the live stream and speculating about professional Valorant player crashies joining Fnatic. Well, thank you. Dude, AI is good.
Yeah, they nailed it.
Yeah.
It just retired me. AI
Yeah,
just retired me. Former streamer.
Tory man Valorant. What was your
so-
favorite policy from what was that girl boss's name who invaded the
Liz
Falklands?
Truss?
That was a
Oh,
big
No,
Margaret
mistake.
Maggie
Thatcher?
Thatcher.
Yeah, old Maggie. What do you think about her? What was your favorite policy?
Yes. When she closed the mines, that was a wonderful decision for much of England and the regional parts.
Yeah, where
of
do you
England
live?
outside of.
You're not even living in the
outside London.
mining areas. I'm falling down old abandoned
How
mine
do you
shafts
know where
every
I
other
live?
day.
How do you know where I live?
I can tell based on your voice.
You think I'm southern?
No, I think you're around Nottingham area.
Wrong. I'm not.
But roughly.
West Midlands, not East Midlands.
But Midlands, yeah, basically.
There's a difference.
Very little. You're not falling down
It's
abandoned mine shafts all the time because of what Margaret Thatcher did, and that's why you've got the neoliberal background at Tory Man Valorant.
If you think that's what the Midlands are like, you're fucking mental.
What do you think about these new
The
roles?
tank's gonna be great.
Okay, the tank's gonna farm from Sentinel. You're sticking to
Yeah.
your guns,
Yeah.
and
Everyone
Tex
else is a
on duelist.
That's the one question. I see. I actually think the tank will probably be fine. Really, like truthfully, I think the tank will probably be okay. I think the problem will come for them, not necessarily when Tex is playing Raze, or well, he's not going to be playing Neon, as we know, because Neon's shit now. But if on the Jet maps, you know that there's going to be like if he doesn't perform well on Jet, I think specifically there's going to be a lot of questions of like, oh, Demon One, clearly is your best Jet. Put him in the position to succeed on Jet. I think that could be a problem. And then even with internally in the team as well, right? You have that internal team dynamic of if Tex doesn't do well on Jet, is the rest of the team thinking, I wish we had Demon One on Jet, instead. That's the only place I see this being an issue is if Tex doesn't do well on Jet. But like we saw Demon One play on Raze, it didn't work. We've seen Demon One play Astra, and it did work. So I think, yeah, I don't really have any problem with this decision. I think it actually makes quite a bit of sense.
Okay. Reasonable. During Spotlight, they also, I think at the very end of it, announced the America's Kickoff bracket.
It was the last thing.
Did they do the rest of the brackets though? Because
I
I
don't
only
know.
saw the Americas one.
No,
Only the
I was
Americas one, I think is
I was going to ask Leo about it, but I forgot.
Oh. Well, we'll never know then.
Yeah, who knows?
The
Sliggy
America's
failed to
bracket
do his job.
Yeah.
does have some kind of sick storylines, though. If we take a
Oh
look
yeah, I
at
think
it.
it's like the best the bracket could have.
Yeah, literally. So for some context on this, 12 teams now. So we get a normal format. Hurrah! No more 11 team fucking stupid bullshit where it's a double round robin that doesn't reset and shit. It's like normal now. The 4 champs teams got a bye into the upper quarters, and then everyone else got seeded into these, and we get MIBR 100 Thieves Chosen Knife rematch with Ospas playing against them for the first time. on that team. You get like EG Loud, classic like champions banger. I don't know. I feel like this is just a pretty sick bracket.
The only person who's annoyed about this bracket is Nadeshot. Because 100 Thieves have just got like an actually horrendous route through here. But the only stinker looks like 2G Furia.
But those like
That one looks
again,
a bit stinky.
but like those teams have to play. So
Jesus.
you're better off putting them together. You're better off having
Sure.
one
Oh no, I see what you
stinker.
mean.
One
Oh,
ultra
yeah.
stinker.
So mean.
Yeah, because then as well, no, those teams are actually more even than if you just had two like what on paper would look like blowouts in the first round. No, I do agree with that actually. No, you've made me more excited to watch that.
This is a beautiful bracket for Leviatan, though.
Lev, yeah.
Well, they might have to play.
Might
I mean,
have to
playing
play
the winner of
tough teams,
G2, NRG. That's
Yeah, but you
Then again, once
avoid
you
you
get to
avoid
that
like the. I don't know. I feel like the upper side is more stacked, and they have a pretty chill first game most likely.
I think it's the best bracket you could come up with for Crew, isn't it? Like Crew have to beat
probably be
EG
favored,
or
yeah.
Loud, and Loud are not as strong, we're probably imagining, as they were last year.
My EG stocks are high.
Crew probably make it through to the upper semifinals. Sliggy won't shut the fuck up about it, about how we all underrated Crew, even though they just got an easy bracket. Like, it's looking good for them. It's looking good for the Crew believers.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
The Croupers, please.
What is happening with the other brackets? Does anyone know?
They have to do the same thing. They have to do a draw, surely. We can't just have this be a random draw and everything else is just predetermined seeding that people knew about a while ago.
No.
The
what
other
is-
regions, they have to release their brackets, folks. I don't know what they're hiding in their brackets. That crooked EMEA. She has to release her brackets.
I don't think they're going to do a live show, though, are they? Because there isn't like
no,
a
probably
live
not.
thing to.
Yeah.
They
do
could
with
put
it.
out like a
really.
little video or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, Pacific Spotlight, has that happened yet?
Nah, that's on the 16th or 18th of December. Somewhere
Maybe
around
they
there.
do that then, but that's
Yeah.
so much later than this one's been revealed. It seems, for competitive integrity reasons, wouldn't you want to know who your opponent is, like all at the same time, all across the world?
Who cares?
Who cares?
I get it. Kind of is a bit of a who cares, but if it's like 2 weeks later,
America first, folks.
The players and teams probably care, but
We're putting America first. Our bracket come out so many weeks sooner than the European Union. They don't even work
They
anymore.
can't pay for their brackets. They're not paying for it.
We're building our own bracket, and we're not paying for it, folks. You know who's gonna pay for our bracket. I'm losing the voice.
Oh, it makes me laugh, but it also makes me cry a little.
Yeah,
bit
it's
too.
really fucked if he's the president again. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
It's gonna be a whole lot less funny in a month.
dude, do you remember? You remember this crash? I'm just going off the rails here, by the way. But
Please,
you know,
we're 3 hours in.
okay, you know that you know that one of the reasons why a lot of investment has dipped in esports is because the interest rates went up, right? And the interest rates went up because we had like a fairly large amount of inflation. And he's talking about implementing like tariff wars around the world. Like he's actually going into global trade wars, which are going to drive inflation massively,
Yes.
probably within the
Yeah,
US.
guys, buy your
Bye-bye
gamers-
esports.
By the way, gamers, buy your fucking graphics card before the 70% the import tariffs come in.
Dude, it's lunatic economic policy. Anyway, we're not a politics podcast.
Yeah, but Kamala's
Yes.
economic plan was clearly so bad, obviously, and definitely she didn't have a better plan.
No, we're just gonna get kicked in the arse by the economic policies. All right, let's move on to Wyatt's weekly award, shall we? And close this thing out. Send the ship home.
Welcome to Wyatt's Weekly Award, or should I say, reward, because this week the winner gets to choose their prize. A banana? A wireless Dyson vacuum? A television? I don't have an outro.
Okay, so we have multiple awards. Multiple rewards, but maybe that means we should give multiple awards. Kurt identified a couple of worthy winners. I like them both. I don't want to pick. I think we should do both of them, Kurt, if you don't mind.
We give
can-
one the banana, we give one the TV.
we missed it a week, and we have a banana, we have a TV,
yeah.
so we make up the week and we give both prizes away. So
Okay,
The
well,
vacuum.
Leo can afford a vacuum or a TV. Like, we'll give him the banana.
Yeah.
Did you see actually the art piece that's like the banana stuck with a bunch of duct tape to a wall and is worth like $2 million or something?
Yeah.
So we'll give him that banana, and then that's super
Wait,
valuable.
didn't someone buy it and then eat it?
Yeah, they've done that multiple times. Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently the
How many
artists...
banana duct tape art pieces are there?
Well, the amazing thing is you can actually create the
we
art
could do
as
it
many
right
times
now.
as you like. Yeah. It's
I have
all
duct
about
tape.
the perceived value.
The best bit of all time would have been Leo has been in the ether this whole time.
And he
listening
pops
to the
back up.
whole show and pops back up and says, I want the TV.
He really has nothing better to do in the off season than just sit around
Yeah,
for 3
he's-
hours waiting.
3 hours of us talking about the Wolverhampton Wolves and doing bad Trump impressions. I hope you enjoyed, Leo.
Anyway, the point of why Leo gets the award is not just because he's Leo or he came on the show or something.
It's because we're the ultimate riot glazing podcast.
Yeah. Who's got a boot? I must lick it. The tweet that he posted as a follow-up to this was just very funny. It was just super funny. He was talking about game changers. He's like, okay, creating a separate sport for women wasn't the goal. We want to integrate them into the scene. It might take a long time. There's a chance it will never be done, but it's cool that we're getting this first one with Floor joining Apex. Somebody follows up, and it's that common take where they just... It's like disguised within what they're trying to make a reasonable point, but essentially just trying to be like, women should play in their own circuit.
Hey,
and
Josh,
not
can I
get
have 30
involved in
seconds
VCT.
quick?
Absolutely, go for it.
Every motherfucker who in sports or in esports says that women's spaces need to be defended as women's spaces does not care about women. The only reason they are saying that is because they have a core belief that men are superior to women, and therefore male to female trans people who are trans women, who are women, are inherently superior because they were born as a male, which is fake as fuck and is under a fake preconception that men are inherently superior, which is fucking stupid. So really, you're just being a sexist and a transphobe and a massive piece of shit, and these spaces are for all marginalized gender and women, and eat a fucking dick and fuck off, because you don't care about women.
Do you want to give the counterpoint there, Sideshow?
Why would I want to give a counterpoint? Why would I want to play devil's advocate? Why would you set me up like that?
Jesus Christ,
Son of a bitch.
CMV.
Son of a bitch.
Oh my god.
Okay, so anyway, Leo just tweets no, not even a punctuation mark at the end, which I think is just so funny. It's so
I'm
funny.
snorting. Oh god, DMV, you're crazy. All right. Anyway, let's go to the other one.
Yeah, the other winner would be
Dude, people are
Effie's.
gonna listen to this and they're gonna hear, oh, we're talking about Tories. We're giving the counterpoint to trans women being women. We're doing Trump vote. They're gonna think this is just a fucking like conservative podcast now. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Elon Musk on next episode to discuss why X Premium is the best deal in gaming. Like, what the fuck?
We're gonna start streaming on X as well. All of the Plat Chat episodes are going out on X, the Everything app.
The Everything app, yes.
The other winner of Wyatt's League Award, the winner of the TV or possibly the Dyson vacuum
It's
cleaner.
their choice.
Yeah, it's up to you. It's Effie's for being bald. Basically, that's what this is.
He got shaved
That's
on broadcast. So I want to give some context on this one. I was at the after party for GCC and talking to Mel just in a random bar in Berlin, and she was mentioning like, hey, like Effie said that he wanted to go bald to match Immy for the event, but he wasn't sure if he was going to do it, and I was like, what if he got shaved on broadcast? And then she took me over to him and we got talking. He's like, yeah, I'm serious about getting shaved. And I'm like, the last person GB shaved on broadcast was Demon 1. He won champions after. It's the absolute buff. You have to get it done. And he was like, I don't know, I'm a little timid. And I said, like, if you agree to it now, I will text my boss drunk and I will make this happen. And then he said yes. And then I texted my boss and then he got shaved on broadcast and went through with it. So credit to Effie's for not backing out and actually getting shaved.
He had a lot more hair to work with than Demon 1 did as well. When I
He
shaved
did.
Demon 1, first of all, I made a mess of it, but also there wasn't that much to get rid of. Effie's has got huge amounts of hair.
Yeah, this
honestly
took a
though,
while.
he should have kept it like this. This is a phenomenal hairstyle.
The half and half,
my
yeah.
The half and half goes crazy. Imagine the comb over you could get with that as well.
Any hair to you, Josh.
Yeah,
Seems
that
amazing,
could have been
doesn't
you
it?
with the transplant, to be honest.
And the thing
I'm
is,
growing out my mustache to grow it backwards back into my hairline.
the thing is that shaving him would have gone so much better if he had a manscaped razor and was using code VALOCHAT20 to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com, the sponsor of today's episode.
That's so true, actually. And he could have been eating his Factor meals at the same time as
He
well.
could have. He could have had his anti-scurvy juice from Factor Meals that he got at factormeals.com/Valorant50.
This is such a good photo. Someone, Doug Trio, or just the evolution of man.
Doug Trio.
Effie's has got the same look as me, the bald with a mustache, and then you grow a little bit of a beard and you become Immy, and then you grow full, like, live in the woods beard. It's so good. It's so good.
It's crazy. Did you ever think about that if you're not bald, you'll never know the shape of your head?
What?
You'll never know the shape of your head if you never go bald.
No, you can, like, touch it and stuff.
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
but you can never fully, like, appraise the proper dimensions and, like, what's going on with the head. Like, you never really know.
What
could
if
have,
you
like, a
get an
weird bump.
X-ray?
X-rays are your
Yeah.
bones, not your head.
What is your head if not the skull?
It's the skin and the shit surrounding the skull.
Oh, you've just got a lot of skin on your head, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can never really see the back of your head, except through mirrors, which who knows if those are even real.
I know
Now
you
we're
were
a
joking about,
conspiracy
like, the
podcast.
right-wing, like, podcast stuff.
No,
but
I'm
it
not
feels like we've ventured into one of their topics.
No, not that kind of head shape stuff. No. Just normal, like, curiosity, not fucking eugenics or whatever you're bringing up.
Well, I think that does it for episode 197.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching Tory Chat. We'll be back next week to discuss the legacy of Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah. Goodbye.